Hello and welcome to Kakaaki, the African Voice on African Independent Television. I am Adora Sydney Jack.
And I am Onoshurena Obozege. Excellent morning to everyone. And we're super glad to know that you could join us this new week and Monday morning.
Absolutely. From any part of the world, you are sure that it's going to be an interesting week. But let's start interestingly that the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission NIDCOM on Friday raised a security alert to Nigerians in South Africa to be cautious due to the growing unrest and anti-foreigner protests in parts of the country.
In a statement, the Commission asked citizens to adhere to the instructions outlined in the travel advisory issued by the Nigerian Embassy in South Africa.
The advisory warned of violent demonstrations in cities such as East London, Cape Town, Durban, and KwaZulu-Natal, as well as planned protests in Gauteng province between today, which is Monday, and Wednesday.
Concern over xenophobic violence highlighted and heightened as videos of hostility towards African migrants circulated online. Some South Africans were seen holding sticks as they chased and beat black foreigners, telling them to leave their country.
Indeed, Rena. On Kakaaki this Monday, we take a cursory look at NIDCOM's advisory. Now, for how long Nigerians in South Africa will perhaps need to be watching over their backs for fears of xenophobic attacks? What are these xenophobic tensions all about, really? Does this have the potential to perhaps snowball into something quite steeper, bigger on the diplomatic scene?
Well, these are the questions we will be putting to Abdurrahman Balogun, Director of Media, Public Relations and Protocols at the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM.
Yes, away from South Africa and back to, let's say, Iran. From there, we move to, of course, the war happening in Iran, which seems to be in the limbo of some sorts, with limited diplomatic progress between the United States and Iran, despite the fragile ceasefire.
The U.S. blockade of Iranian ships in retaliation for Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz and failed attempt to get talks off the ground suggests that the phase-off may be around for quite some time.
Meanwhile, the impasse is taking its global economic toll, as expected.
And then we have the EU Energy Commissioner assessed on Wednesday that the status quo is also costing the bloc $500 million a day. And they are warning that very difficult months or possibly even years lie ahead.
And we're already on that trend already. But in the United States, inflated petrol prices are costing consumers an estimated cumulative additional $300 to about $450 million each day, meaning so far that Americans have collectively spent around approximately $17.6 billion more on gasoline since the start of the conflict.
That's huge. And then we have the Strait of Hormuz also facilitate huge movement of fertilizers, and its continued closure will affect world food supplies. The U.S. imports around 13% of its fertilizer from the Gulf. India imports 25% of its fertilizer from the Gulf as well.
Well, the UN said on Thursday, that was last week, that higher fuel and fertilizer prices from the crisis will now push 30 million people back into poverty worldwide. So,
while there is a cessation of hostilities in Iran, there is no cessation in the damage the limbo in the war is doing to the economies worldwide, Nigeria inclusive.
While the effect is notable in the hike in the country's petrol prices and goods and services generally, what might not be so clear, well, is our hometown, Nigeria's inflation, which is expected to rise in March, triggered by this Gulf War.
The projected rise in prices will end the 11th consecutive months of declining pressures, placing authorities in a difficult position regarding key monetary decisions in May.
Of course, inflationary measures are something that we expect to happen, but where is this all leading to? What will it take to end this war? Is there anything the Nigerian government can do to make the situation more bearable for its people?
These are questions will be put into global development economist Professor Ken Ife.
Okay, so now is your time to remember that you can be part of the program by sending your views and comments to our social media handles. As you see, we take it from time to time. So send it to Facebook, X, Instagram, and of course YouTube at Africa Independent TV, so you can always stay up to date with the letters, sometimes very sad, sometimes interesting stories from across the globe.
I'm talking about news from around the world. We'll now join our Kakaaki World News Desk.
Absolutely, and you lead us through that.
Very well then. Welcome to Kakaaki World News. We start from Lebanon this morning, where residents of southern part of the country are fleeing their homes following Israeli warnings to communities in Nabet province. Hundreds of vehicles, many loaded with mattresses and personal belongings, were seen headed north of Sidon on Sunday as families escaped affected families and villages. The movement comes despite a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, which took effect on April 17 and was extended by 3 weeks on Thursday. Hezbollah has condemned remarks by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who accused the group of threatening the truce. The Iran-backed group insists its attacks are a legitimate response to what it describes as Israeli violations. Meanwhile, Israeli strikes have pushed the death toll in Lebanon to 2,509, with 7,755 others injured since the conflict escalated on March the 2nd, according to the country's health ministry. U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran can initiate talks with the United States, insisting Washington has all the cards. Speaking in a television interview, Trump said Iranian officials could either visit the U.S. or initiate contact by phone after the cancelled plans to send envoys for negotiations. The talks appeared to collapse after Iran's top diplomat left Pakistan, where discussions were expected to take place. Trump also revealed that a suspect linked to a recent security incident in Washington had expressed intentions to target government officials. President Donald Trump has addressed the media at the White House after he, the First Lady, and senior U.S. leaders were evacuated from an annual dinner of White House correspondents on Saturday night after a security incident. Trump, during a White House press briefing, said the suspect was armed with multiple weapons before being stopped by the Secret Service. One officer was shot, but he was protected by a bulletproof vest.
That was supposed to bring together members of both parties with members of the press. And in a certain way it did, because the fact that they just unified, I saw a room that was just totally unified. It was in one way very beautiful, a very beautiful thing to see. A man charged a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons, and he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly and have just released, for purposes of transparency, clarity, I've ordered it to be put out. You probably have it by now, put out on Truth and put out on many other platforms. A tape showing the violence of this thug that attacked our Constitution, and also showing how quickly Secret Service and law enforcement acted on our country's behalf. Really did a great job. One officer was shot, but saved by the fact that he was wearing obviously a very good bulletproof vest. He was shot from very close distance with a very powerful gun.
Security footage posted by Trump shows a man sprinting through the metal detectors and past law enforcement who turned towards him with guns raised. Officers then swam towards the man off-screen. Meanwhile, leaders from across the world are reacting to the incident at the White House correspondent dinner. President Donald Trump was reported uninjured, and other top leaders of the United States were evacuated from an annual dinner of White House correspondent on Saturday night after an unsuspected and unspecified threat.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says he is relieved that President Trump and the First Lady, along with those in attendance, are safe. He adds, in quote, "My thoughts are with all those who have been shaken by this disturbing event," end of quote. His Australian counterpart, Anthony Albanese, also says he is pleased to hear that those at the scene are safe. "We applaud the work of the Secret Service and law enforcement," he adds. Kaja Kallas, the European Union's top diplomat, expresses her support for the U.S. President, the First Lady and all attendees, adding that political violence had no place in democracy. Acting Venezuelan President Delcy Rodriguez strongly condemned the attempted attack and extends best wishes to those in attendance. The Pakistani Prime Minister says he's deeply shocked by the shooting and extends his thoughts and prayers to Trump. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi says he sends best wishes for their continued safety and well-being to the President, the First Lady, and the Vice President. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says he is shocked by the scenes at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington overnight. Any attack on democratic institutions or on the freedom of the press must be condemned in the strongest possible terms, he adds. The man arrested after shots were fired inside the hotel where the White House Correspondents' Dinner was being held on Saturday night has been named to by law enforcement sources as Cole Thomas Allen. The 31-year-old suspect is from Torrance in Los Angeles region, California. The gunman who tried to breach the ballroom at the White House Correspondents' Association dinner is believed to have been targeting members of the Trump administration. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said on Sunday. Blanche said also officials believe that the suspect traveled by train from California to Chicago and then on to Washington, where he checked in as a guest to the hotel where one of Washington's glitziest events was being held on Saturday night. After he was detained by security agents inside the Washington Hilton Hotel, he told law enforcement officials he wanted to shoot officials in the Trump administration. At the late-night press conference, police said that the security officials and the suspect exchanged fire without saying how many shots were fired. Washington Interim Police Chief Jeffrey Carroll said the suspect was not struck by gunfire but was taken to hospital for evaluation.
And Buckingham Palace has confirmed that King Charles and Queen Camilla will proceed with their planned 4-day state visit to the United States. The announcement follows a security incident at a White House dinner attended by President Donald Trump. A palace spokesperson said the decision was reached after consultations with both government officials on both sides of the Atlantic, adding that the royal couple looks forward to the visit. Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov has met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang. During the visit, he thanked him for supporting Russian operations and attended the opening of a memorial honoring North Korean soldiers who fought alongside Russian forces in Ukraine. He also presented awards to troops involved in operations in Russia's Kursk region, praising them as heroes and expressing gratitude on behalf of the Russian people. Ukraine, the United States, and South Africa estimate that up to 12,000 North Korean troops were deployed to support Russia's military efforts. Palestinian officials have described recent local elections in part of the West Bank and Gaza as a success, despite low turnout in some areas. In Deir al-Balah, turnout was recorded at 23%, which officials attributed to outdated civil registry records and the impact of ongoing conflict. Authorities say the elections send a strong message about the possibility of national unity in future general elections. The Palestinian Authority has not held national elections since 2006. Officials also noted that turnout in the West Bank remained consistent with previous local polls, defying expectations of voter apathy. However, the elections did not include East Jerusalem, a long-standing point of contention between Israeli and Palestinian authorities. Funerals have been held in Gaza City for Palestinians killed in fresh Israeli attacks. Hospital authorities say at least 4 people were killed on Sunday after Israeli forces opened fire in separate incidents across the Gaza Strip. Among the victims were 2 men shot near Kuwait roundabout, another near a mosque in central Gaza, and a woman in Khan Yunis. The Israeli military has yet to comment on the incident. The deaths come amid ongoing tensions despite a ceasefire agreement intended to halt more than 2 years of conflict between Israel and Hamas. Gaza health officials say at least 811 people, including women and children, have been killed since the ceasefire began. Italy has approved the extradition of a Chinese national wanted by United States authorities over alleged cybercrime offenses. The decision follows a ruling by an Italian court permitting the extradition of Su Zhuwei, who was arrested in Milan at the request of U.S. authorities. He is accused of wire fraud and identity theft linked to hacking activities, including attempts to steal COVID-19 research from American institutions. His lawyer maintains that Su is a victim of mistaken identity, while the Italian government has declined to comment. Meanwhile, Mali's defense minister, Sadio Kamara, has been killed in an apparent suicide truck bombing targeting his residence near the capital, Bamako. Reports say the attack is part of a wave of coordinated assault by jihadist militant and separatist groups across the country. State television confirmed his death hours later, stating that Kamara died from injuries sustained while engaging the attackers. Sources also indicate that the head of the military junta, General Assimi Goita, was moved to a secure location after his residence was similarly targeted. Meanwhile, in northern Mali, Russian mercenaries supporting the military have reportedly withdrawn from Kidal following 2 days of intense clashes, according to the separatist Azawad Liberation Front. Mali has long battled insurgencies linked to Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State group, and separatist movement, contributing to ongoing instability in the region. To protect human health, people should grow to start taking responsibility for the cleanliness and sustainability of their environment across the country. This was the message of some public health advocates during a clean-up environmental sanitation exercise at the Elegushi Beach in Lagos State. They noted that Nigeria generates over 32 million tons of waste annually, with a significant portion ending up in our streets, drainage, and waterways.
Speaking during the monitoring in Agege, the head of service, Olabode Agoro, expressed satisfaction with the level of compliance, describing the turnout as encouraging for a first exercise after the reintroduction. He noted that participation was voluntary, movement not restricted, but residents and transport operators chose to stay off the roads to clean their environment. Agoro emphasized the importance of regular sanitation, warning that poor environmental hygiene could contribute to the spread of disease, and urged residents to sustain the culture of cleanliness.
For the very first day, it's been very good, and the streets are pretty clean. is a great initiative, by the state government, and it's for us to all stay within our homes from 6:30 to 8:30 and clean our environments and make sure that, we have a cleaner Lagos and our community as a whole.
At Obalende, the Commissioner for Environment, Tokunbo Wahab, and the wife of the Governor of Lagos, Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, commended the reintroduction of the environmental sanitation.
You don't have to wait till we do sanitation. And if you have noticed, we had to bring the students out. So we had students, leadership by example, catch them young.
The last Saturday of the month is just to build that culture that will give up 120 minutes in a month. It's not too much to clean our environment and make our state clean and safe.
Residents in the monitored areas were seen clearing refuse and distilling drainage. Recall that the environmental sanitation in Lagos was suspended on November 2016. Shola Taiwo, AIT News, Lagos.
And that's the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice this morning. Thank you for staying with us. Up next on the program is Kakaaki Business.
Hello and welcome to Kakaaki Business. U.S. consumer sentiment fell to a record low in April as households shrugged off a ceasefire in the war with Iran, remaining focused on the inflation fallout from the conflict. The University of Michigan Survey of Consumers said its consumer sentiment index dropped to a final reading of 49.8 this month, an all-time low. The reading was a slight improvement, however, from the 47.6 reported earlier in the month. Economists polled by Reuters had forecast the index at 48.0. It was at 53.3 in March. The deterioration in sentiment was across political party affiliation and among consumers with investments in the stock market. The Iran war has disrupted shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, boosting the price of oil and ultimately the cost of gasoline and diesel. Prices for other commodities, including fertilizers, petrochemicals, and aluminium, which will soon impact consumers, have also surged. Tehran effectively closed the strait after the start of the war on February 28th. President Donald Trump this week indefinitely extended the ceasefire with Iran through a U.S. Navy blockade of Iran ports remained in effect. Analysts have shaped their forecast for Egyptian economic growth in a Reuters poll for this year and next as the Iran war drives up energy prices and puts pressure on inflation. Gross domestic product growth will be 4.6% in the year to June, 4.6% next year, and 5.5% in 2027-2028, according to the median estimate of 12 economic surveyed April 8 to 23. In a January poll, before the war broke out, economists had predicted growth of 4.9%, thinking reforms taken under an International Monetary Fund IMF program 2 years earlier were bearing fruit faster than anticipated. Growth slumped to 2.4% in 2023-2024, but rebounded after March 2024, when Egypt sharply devalued its currency and raised interest rates as part of an $8 billion IMF financial support package. Growth slumped to 2.4% in 2023-2024, but rebounded after March 2024, when Egypt sharply devalued its currency and raised interest rates as part of an $8 billion IMF financial support package. The central bank, citing the Iran war this month, revised down its year-on-year GDP growth forecast for fiscal 2025-2026 to 4.9% from the 5.1% it had predicted in February. Crude oil is set to rise again when markets reopen after the weekend, after easing below $95 a barrel on Friday, as hopes of reopening the Strait of Hormuz faded once more. Iran's foreign minister left Pakistan on Sunday without meeting U.S. officials, following President Trump's order to halt negotiations. West Texas Intermediate saw 13% last week, its biggest weekly gain since early March, as the key shipping route remains largely closed. The ongoing U.S. naval blockade continues to restrict Iranian crude exports and remains a major obstacle to progress. Analysts say that even if the strait reopens, oil flows could take months to normalize, keeping supplies tight and pressure on global energy markets. State governments and local government councils received a combined 3.66 trillion naira from the Federation Account Allocation Committee (FAC) in the first 3 months of 2026, underscoring their heavy dependence on federal revenue disbursements. AIT's analysis of the data released by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that a total of 7.86 trillion naira was shared among the 3 tiers of government between January and March 2026. A breakdown indicates that states received 2.15 trillion naira within the period, while the 774 local government councils got 1.51 trillion naira. In January, states received 706.47 billion naira and local governments 513.27 billion naira out of a total 2.59 trillion naira shared. February recorded the highest allocation in the quarter with 3.04 trillion naira disbursed. States got 794.01 billion naira, while local governments received 537.88 billion naira. The allocations were largely funded through statutory revenue and value-added tax, with VAT playing an increasingly significant role in sustaining government finances. Despite the large inflows, analysts say many states and local governments remain fiscally strained due to rising wage bills, debt obligations, and weak internally generated revenue.
All right, welcome back from that business break. Up next is Kakaaki Sports with Sembeshima, the Benue girl.
There do girl. Rena, thank you so much. Good morning. And
good morning, too.
It's good to see you. All right, so let's get right into it. Good morning, welcome to Kakaaki Sports. It is the last Monday in the month of April, and it also happens to be my last on the show as a presenter, but I won't get into the details. Catch me on social media for the gist of all of that. But, well, as always, we will continue the conversation from title race and relegation battle across leagues, precisely the European leagues and the Nigerian leagues, as the 2025-2026 season climax. But before we get into the conversation with my guests, let me bring you up to speed with some of the news making headlines in the sports sector. Beginning, of course, with the Nigerian women's basketball team, the Tigers, who are gearing up for the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup. As part of preparations for the team, they are scheduled for 3 games with 3 WNBA teams, that is the Women's National Basketball Association League, as they have played 1 against Sparks, LA Sparks, and sadly lost it 63-89. Hopefully they will close the margin in their next game, which is against Minnesota Lynx, and the final one against Indiana Fever on May 2nd. The Tigers are drawn in Group B alongside Hungary, South Korea, and France for the 2026 FIBA Women's Afro-Basket World Cup. Well, and also the Confederation of African Football, CAF, has announced that the prize money structure for the upcoming Under-17 African Cup of Nations sets in gear financially rewards for participating teams based on their final standing. According to CAF, the championship tournament will receive, the winners of the tournament will receive $125,000, approximately 170 million naira, while the runners-up will earn $90,000. Semi-finalists are set to take home $60,000 each, with quarter-finalists guaranteed $50,000. Team finishing in 3rd place, respectively, group stage will receive $25,000, while those placed 4th in the group stage will earn $20,000. The total prize for the competition stands at $715,000, underscoring CAF's continued investment in youth development across the continent. Also, let's tell you that Nigeria under-20 women's national team, the Falconets, have wrapped up their 3-week intensive training camp in Abuja as they intensify preparations for their decisive qualifier against Malawi in a race for the place at the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, scheduled for September 5th to 26th in Poland. The team arrived in Ikene Remo on Ogun State on yesterday ahead of their first leg and the final qualifying round scheduled for this Saturday, May 2nd. Nigeria holds an impressive record in the competition, having participated in every edition since the inception 24 years ago. Well, also the President Federation Cup tournament has wrapped up in most states across Nigeria, with winners emerging to compete for the ultimate prize and the ticket to the CAF Confederation Cup next season. News reaching us as of last night says most MPFL clubs emerged state champions, talking about Enugu Rangers of Enugu, Enyimba International of Abia State, Nasarawa United, and Bender Insurance of Edo State, who successfully defended their title, winning the trophy for the second consecutive time. We'll be giving you details of all the victors in different FA Cup across the state in our subsequent sports bulletins. But now let's come back to our conversation this morning, which is title race and relegation battle in leagues across the world, beginning, of course, with the Nigeria Premier League. I mean, we're talking about the FA Cup. And having joining me now is my guest, O.C. Ugu, who I like to say the most greatest of all time when it comes to appearances on the show. O.C., good morning. Welcome to Kakaaki Sports.
Same, Veshima. So good to be with you.
Okay, O.C., if you can unmute yourself. I can't hear you.
I'm surprised you can't hear me, but I can hear you.
All right, O.C., I think we're having audio problems, but quickly, O.C., if you can hear me, I can't really hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So maybe you should try to unmute your audio device.
I'm not mute. I'm not mute.
All right, so
Not
quickly,
mute.
okay, if you can hear me, and when you do hear, when you come on, just get on with the conversation. O.C., the Nigeria Premier League, March day 35 is done and dusted. We're currently on break because of the FA Cup fixtures lined up for this particular time. In the next 2 weeks, MPFL will not be playing. But the title race and the relegation battle is definitely the talk of the conversation currently ongoing now, as Rangers and Rivers United continue to battle head-to-head. You're from Enugu State, but quickly, O.C., tell me, do you think Rangers run away with this one?
Well, it's a dog race right now going to the end of the league. Rangers International are trying to nick it away from Rivers United, who seems to be having everything going. One win and about 2 draws in the last 7 games. But it's going to be a dog race. It's going to be a fight to finish. And I expect Rangers. I know I'm a big supporter of Enugu Rangers. I expect Rangers to do this. But Rivers United are not going to be sitting on their house. Josh Finidi is not going to be sitting on his house. He has done it before with Enyimba International, having won the league with Enyimba International. And I expect him also to do this also for Rivers United. But Coach Fidelis Ilechukwu of Rangers too has won the league before. He almost won it with MFM when MFM was still in the league, but he didn't do that. He couldn't do that with MFM, and he got the job with Rangers. I was able to do it with Rangers. Now we have got 2 experienced coach, 2 trophy-winning coaches going head-to-head, going bank for bank towards winning the league in a tight race. And hopefully, I see Rangers nicking this at the end of the day. Not because I'm a fan of Rangers, but I think Rangers have got the potential to do this or if they play their cards very well, if they play their cards close to their chest, I see Rangers winning the Nigeria Professional Football League. And coming down to the relegation zone,
Exactly. I was getting there because teams have already qualified to the MPFL. I was going to hold you there, but you just got right into it. Teams have already qualified into the MPFL, and going into looking at the standing now, a lot of teams will have to go down. We've not confirmed any relegation battle, relegated team yet. However, teams will go down because we already have qualified teams to the MPFL. Your take on the relegation battle and who you think will survive this one outside the 4 teams that are there?
There's a glimmer of hope for Remo Stars because it would have been a very, very, very bad precedent for a team that a defending champion to get relegated. I've never seen that happen in Nigeria Professional Football League. My seniors on the job might correct me if I'm wrong, but it should have been a slap on the face for Remo Stars to go down like that. Don't forget, this is one of the only privately owned team that got the support a privately owned team is supposed to get. And for them to just go down would be a shame, would be a slap on our collective faces for some of us that are supporters of privately owned team. I can see them trying to, escape the relegation zone, but I'm not sure it's the same for a team like Kaliafat, a team like Bayelsa United, Wiki Tories of Bauchi. Oh, that is another international team that I don't know if they are going to come back. And there's another team in my head I'm trying to forget. It's still in the 17, 18, 19, 20 team. That team also has no business being there, but they're there. Then for Power United also, I see them escaping a bit, but the last few games would say a lot. Enyimba International, it will be interesting for you to know they are 13th on the log. Can you imagine that? Enyimba International, how are the mighty falling? How are the mighty falling? It's a big disappointment. But it is what football it is. And again, I'm happy for the Nigerian Professional Football League. Now the games are not predictive like it used to be back then, whereby it's win at all costs at home. Massive kudos to Bengad Legbeleye, my good senior friend there for the job he has done to the league. Now it's a fight to finish situation. We can boast our league. It's not the farmers' league like what we have in probably in the German league and in the French league until recently, where the teams to win the league are predictable.
Right, if you rightly said, if you look at the table, it's quite shocking there. The big boys seem to be struggling around relegation waters. And who will survive, like you rightly said, we'll find out that after match day 36, or perhaps even till the final day, because it's looking like it's going to take us till the final day, match day 38. But keep our fingers crossed. However, congratulations to the qualified teams already. Talking about Doma United, Inter Lagos, Sporting Lagos on their return to the league, and of course, Ranchers Bees also on their return to the league after nearly 20 decades of not playing in the Nigerian Premier League. So not so way from now, put the Nigerian Premier League, of course, to the EPL. Yes, it's also been quite, competitive right there, talking about title race and relegation battle. Teams are still, 2 teams now have been relegated from the EPL, but we know that one more team will still go down. But again, talking about the title race now, which is very interesting, Arsenal and Manchester City taking it out on toe-to-toe there, just as we have it in the Nigeria Premier League. Who do you think? Manchester City, on the other hand, they will still have an advantage, but do you see Arsenal taking this one through and winning their first trophy in 22 years?
You know, if you've been following me on some in-house platform, I've always said I wanted Arsenal to win the league because I don't want a situation where we have just a particular team dominating the league. It doesn't speak well about the league. It becomes boring, becomes monotonous when Manchester City are always winning the league. They've won it 5 in 6 years. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I don't like that. And for a breath of fresh air, I want Arsenal to do this. I'm not a fan of Arsenal. I've never been a fan of Arsenal. I used to be a fan of Arsenal back in the day. So I'm not going to lie. When Kadunwako was still there, before they messed him up, and I hated Arsenal. That's one of the reasons why I hate that club. I say, Arsenal fan could cough my head. I don't care. So, but talking about serious business, I only wanted Arsenal to win this league. But is this in their hands? No. Can they win it? The probability ratio is quite low because I don't see Manchester City odds right now winning, letting loose or slipping. But it's football anyway, anything could happen. But the odds are in favor of Manchester City. I see Manchester City winning this with everything. The psychological warfare is being fought right now. We've been seeing memes on social media. We've been seeing short videos getting at Arsenal. There's even one of Arsenal fan begging Pep to let Arteta win the league. That is ridiculous. But it shows you the passion football fans have got for the game. And Arsenal, after so many years of not winning the trophy, not winning the just EPL, I think if they can win it this year, I'll be happy. Don't forget we've got so many Nigerian born players in that team also. And don't forget we have the Bible brothers in that team also. And also in Manchester City, we've got the Bible brothers. So it's the battle of the Bible brothers also. Let's see what's going to pan out at the end of the season.
All right, let's see how it's going to pan out. That is what everybody's saying now, because Arsenal seem to be running away with it after going back to the table, losing the top spot and returning to it just about Saturday. They returned to the top of the table without emphatic win in that their game against Newcastle. But now, if you look at the table, of course, teams are already relegated, like I rightly said, talking about Wolves and Burnley, and we have the likes of Spurs. Are you shocked that Spurs are struggling at this point? And most people are saying this is the Hurricane curse, and I mean, Hurricane leaving the club, and the other guy, I keep forgetting his name. I want to say the Korean guy.
Gareth Bale?
Yes, yes.
No. Gareth Bale left a long time.
It is because of this major exit from the club that has kept Spurs in this position. And do you see them surviving relegation quickly?
It's a tight one. I'm not going to say I see them surviving relegation. The English Premier League is very difficult to predict. But with a new coach, this is a coach that knows the English Premier League as a whole, and I believe he could muster some courage. He could utilize the right players, and they could win. And it's a big shame they found themselves in that particular situation. And don't forget, Chelsea too should have been in that particular situation by now, because they also messed things up. So this is what you get when you chopping and changing coaches at any how you want. Sometimes they come with such repercussion, and that is what they're facing right now. I mean, coaches within one season. So well, let's wish the best for them. Spurs is a big team that we don't want going to relegation or going to the championship. But I know if they go to the championship, like Leicester, they could come back. So it's not going to be the end of the world. They should learn their lessons. If they go to relegation, fine. It is football. No team is going to go on relegation on your behalf.
All right, now that takes us, of course, to the UEFA Champions League as we count down to the first leg of the semi-finals, where Arsenal are also tied to hopeful when it comes to this particular championship. Arsenal will be up against Atletico de Madrid right there, and Bayern Munich will face Paris Saint-Germain, defending champions. Quickly, OC, this game is lined up for tomorrow and next tomorrow. Already, yes, 28th and 29th. And Arsenal fighting for the title race in the EPL, and here they are also in the UEFA Champions League. How do you see this panning out? Your predictions and your analysis, the post-match analysis, pre-match analysis, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. But it's a battle royale on Tuesday. PSG, a former champion or defending champion rather, going against Bayern Munich, the former champion also, and the both teams. This is just like a final before final, if you ask me. This semi-final is a mouth-watering encounter that no football fan will want to miss. And I see, fireworks coming from both teams. And I'm expecting PSG to do the job because they are playing at home against Bayern. Then Bayern also to do the job. The better team, let the better team win. Then talking about Atleti against Arsenal. This is one of the reasons why I say Arsenal they're living in a dilemma. It's a tough one for them. They're battling on different fronts. They're battling at the home front for the EPL. They're battling in Europe for the UEFA Champions League. A tough one. I don't see them going past an Atletico Madrid that is very, very formidable defense-wise. We all know what Cholo does and what Diego Simeone does when it comes to defending. He's a tactical tactician when it comes to such holding his defensive guys back home there at the back of the pitch. I don't see Arsenal going past Atleti at the end of the day. I don't see that happening. But with football anyway, I don't want to predict at the end of the day. I look foolish. It's football, anything can happen. Let the better team win in this situation. I'm happy I'm a neutral, so I'm going to be sitting down, popping my popcorn and also watching good football. Right.
All right, I asked you for your prediction, but you didn't really say the scoreline.
I'm very careful with this shot. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a soothsayer. So, but let the better team win at the end of the day. I want to see the best team going to the finals between the 4 teams right now. I want to see the best team going to the finals, and then they will get good football in the finals come May.
Okay, OC, that's a safe place to drop the conversation. I mean, let the best team
that's a safe place, and also that's a safe place for me. Sanitation, it has been a nice one.
Yes.
I've been doing this with you in a long time, and even when I left Nigeria here, when I handed the baton to you, and you anchored very well. You didn't let this show die, and I'm so happy.
Okay,
it's one of the reasons I try to give you my support. Sanitation, wherever the sale of the world takes you to
Thank
on
you
your
so
ship
much.
right
Thank
now.
you so much,
I want to say, let God add more, please, more wind to your sail and you get to your flight destination.
Right, OC.
For
I
me,
mean, we'll continue this conversation on social media, but thank you so much, OC, for your time.
Whatever
always
it
on the
is,
show
yeah,
and for
take
all
it.
these years. I mean, always coming on consistently, never saying you're tired or you're not available. Thank you so much for being a part of it and this journey so far. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Right,
Also
that's our package this Monday morning on Kakaaki Sports. Thanks for being a part of it. I am Simbishma. Up next is the social intervention segment. Stay tuned.
And welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Jolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye.
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today, I'll be speaking on how to stand out at the workplace, even if you're not the boss. You don't need to have a big title to get noticed in the office. You just need to show that you care and you take pride in what you do. Here are some of the things that you must do differently in order to be able to really show that you are somebody that the boss can trust. The critical thing is, number one, you have to learn how to be reliable. Reliability is so outstanding that the foundation of great reputation at any place of work is a concept called reliability. Imagine that you are asked to complete a task, and if you always show up on time, deliver results, and stay committed, people begin to do or trust you. It's like earning trust in a savings account. Whether it's small task or big project, whatever it is, the whole idea is that you get the job done. Get the reputation of being the one who gets the job done. Number two is getting a reputation of actually helping others to succeed. Imagine that you are within the organization, you are the go-to person. When anybody in the organization is having any issue at all, it is you that they come to, and they trust that whenever they come to you, you give them hope, you inspire them, and you offer them advice, sharing resources, or even lending an ear. What that means is that you create such a big influence within the organization, and people begin to do business with you at every point in time. They begin to trust you, and whenever there's recommendation for somebody to be moved to the next level, a lot of people will recommend you. So speak up, but with respect, is the third thing that is important on how you can build credibility in the workplace and become somebody that the boss will always notice and identify. Share your ideas, even if you are not the boss. Take ownership of the boss's ideas, but also learn how to, in every meeting, listen attentively and literally be part of the meeting. By what? By contributing and ensuring that your ideas are always on the table. But you must always learn how to speak assertively, speak kindly, but at the end of the day, always produce ideas that are sustainable, ideas that can generate results, and ideas that can make you really, really count. The whole principle is the fact that you can stand out in the organization if you learn the principle of being the best you can at work, owning the process, and being part of executing those ideas that can change the face of the organization. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man does not have a purpose of waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered how to overcome sexual abuse from your family member? Ever heard of the statement, let's do mommy and daddy? Sibling child sexual abuse is defined as sexual behavior between siblings that is not age appropriate, or incest is defined as sexual contact between persons who are closely related, such as in the case of parents and children, first cousins and siblings. Incest usually takes the form of an older family member sexually abusing a minor. Victims of incest are often very reluctant to reveal what has occurred, and it's natural. Many young incest victims are told by the perpetrator that what is happening is a learning experience that happens in every family by an older family member. Who says so? Incest victims may fear they will be disbelieved, blamed, or punished if they tell what has occurred. Now, have you been sexually abused by a sibling, a parent, or close relative? There are things you need to know. Number one, be patient. Healing from incest is a process, and different people will vary in the amount of time required for their healing. Don't put yourself on a timeline or tell yourself you should be over this by now. It takes courage to seek help for healing, to talk about your experience, and to bring what was once in darkness into light. You also need to grieve your loss. Much has been taken from you. Let yourself feel the necessary pain and grieve the loss you have experienced. You also need to regain control. Being believed and being able to say what happened are most important first steps. You have permission to stand strong and to be empowered over the one who has exerted power over you. You also need to establish boundaries for adult survivors of incest. It is time to learn how to practice self-care. One important step is to establish healthy boundaries. Be sure trusted people are aware of your personal boundaries. Some people may want to confront their abuser. It's okay. Others will not, or will not be able to, but whatever you decide is fine. Know that you will heal. You do have a bright future. You're not a victim, but a survivor. You may have lost a lot, but you're not ruined for the future, because healing is possible. Find more intense guidance. You may need some professional guidance in order to truly deal with the depth of pain that incest has caused you. It is not wrong to seek out professional help. Seek out a counselor with some expertise in counseling survivors of incest. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
Well, thank you for staying with us, and welcome back to the show. And indeed, a lot has been said by Shola. I'll put it there on my 2 kobo. But from us here at 2 Naira, we'll be taking you to a special segment this morning, talking about environment and hygiene and, of course, consciousness about cleanliness. And, you know, just to let you know that Nigerians actually generate over 32 million tons of waste annually, with majority of that waste landing on our streets. And that's what the special report is about, the need for people, especially in Nigeria, to protect their human health, looking at the responsibility for their environment and also cleanliness. Indeed. Let's take a special report.
Yeah, maybe we'll take that report and then we come back for our thoughts before 7 a.m.
The Great Naija Cleanup Exercise is a nationwide effort aimed at strengthening environmental protection across the country. It brought together participants from various walks of life here at the Legushi Beach. Incidentally, It coincided with the return of the monthly environmental sanitation exercise in Lagos State.
Sanitation and health, I would say they are Siamese twins, right? We need to keep our environment clean for the health of our people. In Nigeria, we generate about 2.5 million tons of plastic waste, annually. And Lagos does about 850,000 tons. A lot more work needs to be done to ensure that we do this at scale and the impact is felt.
This event is holding across the 6 geopolitical zones. We believe that Nigerians should grow to start taking responsibility for the cleanliness and sustainability of their environment. It is coinciding with the return of the Environmental Sanitation Initiative by the Lagos State government, and it's testament to the fact that different people and different sectors are thinking alike when it comes to the sustainability of our environment.
The Great Clean Up Niger exercise was done in commemoration of the 2026 World Health Day, a global event held annually to promote environmental sustainability. Ushomowa Daniels, AIT News, Lagos.
Yeah, that's a report right there. I just think that there's always a way to make or turn waste to wealth. And I was just remembering how a school in Lagos, or if not some of them in Lagos, especially in Ajegunle area of that Lagos state, where parents actually pay school fees with bottles of water, use bottles of water, and that's in exchange. A private school, for that matter, it is managed that way. And I think that that's one of the ways of making sure that instead of dropping them by the roadside, instead of being in the vehicle and then throwing it from the window, and then again you come back to blame Tinubu, who is the president. I would always say, if I find myself in that position, don't throw it, keep it until you alert from the vehicle. And yes, if we could carry on that message and be advocates, because at the end of the day, the people that you think you are doing, say the president or the people in government, for example, they're not even exposed to that environment. It still comes back to us. We still suffer it at the end of the day and all that. So this is a conversation to have. Waste to wealth is a thing to do, and cleanliness, indeed, not just because it's next to godliness, as we see and we read. It's safe and it's healthier for us.
Absolutely, and I think, just in leaning into what you have said, Rena, when I think about environmental gatekeeping and hygiene literacy, I think it just goes beyond our immediate environment. And I say this because I have looked at the clean energy ecosystem, and I understand that countries like Kenya, countries like Ghana, have over the time phased out certain use of plastics, like you've mentioned. They no longer use things like polythene bags and plastic bags, so they use paper bags. And it's even a crime if you're found using it. And so even from the airport, by the time you come into the airport, into their country, at the point of entry, there are all these leaflets and messages about hygiene and environmental gatekeeping. So I think that one thing we can do is to just not take this to the classrooms, like you said, but like I saw in the segment, domesticate it in the communities for people to become aware. And I think that's where we'll go. But from there, I think we're jumping to something most important this morning.
We just take this thing and then we come back for newspaper review. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to bring you newspaper review, and we do have Chris Wanda here in the studios live with us. And oh, look at that smile! Look at that smile! Very resplendent. What a way to light up our screen.
True. I saw him in the control room, and I just thought this is a typical Lagosian. Yeah, we leave before time, but this is Abuja. We don't spend forever on the road. But welcome. Thank you for coming that early.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Nice being here.
Nice. How's your weekend?
Yeah, fine. It's fine.
Fantastic.
My tag team partner will be here next week.
Fantastic. All right, let's get into it this morning, Rena, shall we? And we're starting this morning with our papers, and indeed we're beginning with our paper this morning, and that's on Daily Global. Daily Global is the first to look at, "You are unworthy of your office. APC Blast Makinde, Operation Wetty Remark, and that's what you find leading on the front page of the Daily Global.
And from there, we go to disclosure news, and it says APC opposition differ on Ibadan summit, gathering a waste of time. APC slaps opposition, Governor Makinde. You find that on page 2 of the disclosure news this morning.
The Daily Monitor monitors still with the remark, but here it says APC PDP in verbal war over Makinde's Operation Wetty Remark. Your remarks, a reckless incitement to violence, APC blast or your governor. No, Makinde's comments, not a threat, but warning against political repression, says PDP.
And the same story Blueprint has this morning. It says APC PDP rally against Makinde over call for Operation Wet here. It says governor or your governor's call diminished his exalted office. And also have PDP talking in another rider. It says remarks inciting, threatening national cohesion.
All right, this Nigeria is looking at APC Makinde clash deepens over Ibadan summit. Operation Wetty is a dangerous rhetoric that could incite violence. It's warning against repression, not threat. And that's Oyo governor's camp speaking. Suspect in Trump's shooting incident in custody to appear in court.
And from there to Nigerian News Director says you are victims of self-inflicted injuries. APC slams opposition party, says Makinde's comment reckless, inciting violence. You find that on page 7 of Nigerian News Direct today.
And the Authority newspaper is looking at Atiku. That's, of course, 2027 Atiku Obi supporters dig in ahead ADC primaries back Kwakwanso, Makinde as running mate, and that's the lead story.
And the same story, Daily Sun has and leads with this morning, is that 2027 NDC offers Obi Kwankwaso joint ticket, gives duo 2-week window to join party, be it presidential, vice presidential candidate.
A New Telegraph looks at the lead as accused officers to be arraigned, take plea May 8th, investigation. Mali's defense minister killed as coordinated attacks hit military targets, and that's the rider to their lead this morning.
And New Telegraph says alleged coup, accused officers to be arraigned, take plea May 8th, investigation. One of the riders says Mali's defense minister killed as coordinated attacks hit military target.
And now let's move to the Whistler, and we're looking at 2027. Lagos governorship race hits up as Hamzat Jando caught power brokers, and that's on page 7. Mojabi Amila backs Hamzat. Utomi urges opposition to rescue Nigeria from Ponzi economics.
And let's talk about some security stories more. Daily Asset says insecurity. Atiku opposes campaign ban in Benue, 7 northern states, urges protection of democratic right.
Now we move to the Inquirer. Here it says controversy thrills death of core member in Abuja. Citizens indict army. He was caught in robbery crossfire gas brigade, and that's the rider to that unfortunate story.
And from there we go to Standard Times Nigeria. It says gag order, Serap editors sue NBC over threat to sanction broadcasters for expressing opinions.
Al Jazeera Nigeria, however, takes it to Hajj. There, if you can see it on your screen, Hajj concerns as Jet A1 hits 3,000 naira per litre. Aviation stakeholders urge federal government states on quick intervention ahead of Muslim pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia.
And Business Diary is talking money as well. It says federal government begins journey to drive non-oil revenue through taxes. Analysts talking there. You find it on page 2. And it says as taxman, Oyedele resumes as finance minister.
All right, those are some of these stories this morning. Let's move straight into the meat of the matter. The headlines are interesting, very political, some, but you're unworthy of your office. APC blast Makinde over Wetty remarks. Daily Global Disclosure, Daily Monitor, Blueprint. Chris?
Well, all that is fine in war. We are close to the election, and campaign will soon start. So every politician, every political party will always throw everything at each other to be able to make some level of relevance and also cut the electorate. But the main issue was the meeting of the opposition parties in Ibadan at the weekend. And for the first time, it seems that the opposition party seems to be getting their house together. We'll be saying this time and time again that if they don't get their house together, which is almost getting late, then it will be a one-way ticket for the ruling APC come 2027, because if you look at the dynamics as it were currently, a situation where everybody seems to be endorsing the president. As at the last count, I would say about 34 governors out of 36, 34 out of 36, being that 32 APC governors, that is certain. And when you come to realize that even those in the opposition, the governor of Abia State seems to be leaning towards the president, and the governor of opposition party in Anambra State, Professor Charles Oludo, that means that the president already had 34 out of 36 governors in his kitty. So he's just left with Governor Makinde and the governor of Bauchi, the two governors of the PDP. So,
how about Abia and the dancing governor?
I mentioned, well, the dancing governor, from the body language we've had, he's also heard that he's also leaning towards the president. So you can see that it's practically all of them are. But the issue at stake was the statement created to the governor of Oyo State during the meeting, where he said, he mentioned something about Operation Weight. I wasn't born when they had the Operation Weight.
1962.
No, I wasn't born. I wasn't born. I don't even think my mother had gotten married to my dad by then. Anyway, but as students of history, we read what happened. And I don't think that it was, although the APC is trying to make a whole meal out of the statement, I don't think that statement was meant to incite Nigerians. It's just a more of a cautionary statement by the government, because as we are seeing it, whether we like it or not, Nigeria is practically turned into a one-state, a one-party state. The only people that don't realize that and don't believe that is the ruling party, APC, and the government of President Bola Ahmed. Every other person knows that we are practically in a war. And the warning is that a country that has practically been turned into a war is not the best for our political growth. Now, while some of us were doubting what must have happened, there have been insinuation that the ruling party is part of the problem going on in the opposition parties, that the one instigating it. I was one of those that really felt that the opposition parties were not getting their ass together and they are the one causing it. But last week, something hit me. When I saw the statement created to the chief of staff, to the president, Femi Gbajabiamila, former House of Reps speaker, who said at the birthday of a particular a politician in the opposition, I think ADC, Abejide, that he should remain in the party, try and destroy the party. That was a very, very strong statement. I have never known Mr. Gbajabiamila to be the kind of person that just speak, just talk off cuff. Of course, with due respect.
But Chris, just to come in here, because again, I'm listening to you and I'm sure, I mean, the rhetorics, the timing of utterances, the body language of Nigerians, the pacing of the impatience of Nigerians, and this conversation coming at this point. One would say, I mean, if you listen to whether APC makes sense when they say it's insightful or not, we want to also put into the objectivity of the timelines that we're in. How do you look at that? We're getting into primaries. Of course, elections are very around the corner. Aren't politicians supposed to be more, you know, perhaps understanding of not just themselves and their selfish interests, but what it affects on Nigeria? You know,
when you say politicians, you are putting it generic, I divide politicians into two spheres. Politicians as we have it in advanced countries, and the Nigerian politicians. In Nigeria, the Nigerian politicians is anything goes. What we call in local parlance, where belief face. They have no ideology. They have no moral standing when it comes to welfare of the people. They are one, I've always said the Nigerian politician is one of the most selfish politicians I've ever seen in the world. They are more interested in themselves. All the board is talking about, oh, I'm supporting this, I'm supporting this, I'm going for this. All is for their own personal interest. Because if you ask them where the Nigerian interest is within the context of what we're talking, there is nothing. Look at what is happening across. Now, look at if the 2027 campaign starts. I've always said, what is the ruling party going to campaign on? Is it security, which is very, very fundamental? Is it economy? Is it social welfare? We are talking of health, in terms of infrastructure and rest. Those are the things I want to start here. I want to say it. Okay?
Yeah, if we have to go back to the headline and look at what Operation Wet Year, how it happened in 1962 when it came. It was an act that people would say, oh, you are my political enemy, perceived. This is an act of rigging manipulation. They will set politicians and their property ablaze. And that was the first thing that led to our first military takeover in January 15 of 1966, 4 years after. Don't you think that that's the perspective that the APC is looking at it from, that if 4 years into Operation Wet Year, this happened, military takeover happened, first in Nigeria, this is what maybe that statement is inciting when he says it's inciting violence?
It's not about Nigeria, it's about Nigerian politicians. The problem with the average Nigerian politician, they don't have any sense of history. They don't have any sense of history. They don't learn. And that has always been the right from 1960, 66, 70, 1979, we moved to even up to the election that was, Abiola's election that was on now, down to 1999. By 1999, we thought we would have learned a lot of lessons. After going through the military, you come to realize that it's the same people. And the problem is that we'll be having the same people being recycled on the beds. Why, as I said earlier on, I personally don't see a governor in the person of Makinde trying to instigate Nigerians. That is my personal opinion. I'm not being political here. I'm not a member of any political party. I'm not registered with them. I'm a journalist doing my job. And a Nigerian for that matter, a patriotic Nigerian for that matter. I think what he has said, we should just look at just throw the baby away with the bathwater. Can we have a look at what he said and some of the issues that he raised, which is very, very fundamental? A situation where you want to stiffen opposition, where you want to make sure that you are the only person that's making, and every attempt by other the opposition parties to be able to rear their heads is being closed, then there's going to be fundamental issues. And we have to be very, very careful. We have to be very, very careful because even within the news, we have seen a situation where certain individuals, non-state actors, are trying to take advantage of the situation and try to be funny. Some people are already being tried, are going on trial for trying to instigate or go into something. We have to, our politicians have, whatever they are doing, the interest of Nigeria must be paramount over and above their personal interest.
Well, from that opposition summit, I think one of the biggest news is that they agreed to field one presidential candidate.
Some already have already denied that. That's what I'm talking about opposition. You're already seeing a situation where somebody, one of the papers, where one of the new political parties is trying to lure people of opposition. Let them come together. If they think they can be able to unseat a president like Bola Ahmed Tinubu individually, that would be everything. Because you remember what happened pre-2015. If they think individually as a party, PDP, Labour Party, whatever, you can be able to say, no. This was a man that got into office at a crucial period where he almost, I think it was 12 seats each for each of the three top candidates. But now he has consolidated power. The man has, as I said, 34 governors for him. He has so many other things going for him. The only person that can stop, the only thing that can stop Tinubu from becoming president in 2027, to me personally, is Tinubu himself and probably God. And the party and the opposition party being able to put their hands together and come together as one. That was what the APC did in 2015. They tried the AD, it didn't work. They tried the other party. Now CPC came together with AD and some ANPP and some fashion. You remember the 5 NPDP and non-NPDP? All of them came together and was able to form a strong opposition to the PDP in 2015. And that was how Buhari was able to come to power. So, but if they think they can individually go about it and be able to unseat the current president, I'm saying, it will be very, very difficult.
It's interesting. I think that Africa really is at the precipice, Chris, because even in Zimbabwe, the ZANU-PF, the ruling party, have drafted the policies to take, parliamentary and presidential election for just 5 years term to 7 years term, and then take away the direct popular vote of people and give the parliament the vote to vote the president. So everybody's looking at sit-tight syndrome and political party takeover. So let's go to another lead story this morning. 2027, Atiku Obi supporters digging ahead, ADC primaries. Authority newspaper ran with that, Daily Sun ran with that, and still around politics, Chris.
Yeah.
How do you look at this?
My sister, I've said it, just as I said earlier on. The greatest mistake the ADC will do or will make in 2027 is fielding someone like Atiku Abubakar. That's my personal opinion. For me, the South still has a 8-year mandatory period, just like the North. Anybody coming now from the North to try to take over power just after 4 years of Tinubu will not succeed. It won't work. And that was part of the reason why you remember, no matter how you look at Wike and his atrocities and the rest of them, but you see in what he believed pre-2023. For him and some of his supporters, and he felt that it was the turn of the South.
Okay.
If you understand what I mean. And that was why he was vehemently against the candidacy of Atiku Abubakar. If the APC go ahead to field somebody like Atiku Abubakar, is Eldorado. I personally think that they should be able to, within themselves, agree if they've showed, as the national chairman of the PDP, I wouldn't know whether I would use the word, factional national chairman of the PDP said after the summit that they want to come up with a candidate. That candidate should be a Southern candidate. But the question you are going to ask yourself, who is that person?
The Daily Sun also says 2027, NDC offers Obi Kwakwanso joint tickets.
Well, whether the Kwakwanso Obi ticket will run, will fly, is something I don't know. I know that Kwakwanso is very strong in Kano. How strong he is in the North is something I don't understand. You have to be very... You know, what Buhari had going for him in the past was that he has this 12 million standby vote for him from the North for over three election cycles. At the last one, he now said he wasn't going to run again, that he was tired, he was crying all over the place, until someone like the current president came around and said, put a hand around his shoulder and said, don't worry, we'll give you vote from the South. And that was how he became a president. So just relying on Kwakwanso and Kano, even Kano is well divided now, because you have the current governor in Kano, who is very strong. You have the former governor of Kano State, who had just defected to the APC. So Kano is a very divided state for now. So even if it doesn't vote coming from Kano, whichever way you look at it, it's going to be divided between him, the current governor, and also the former governor. So, but he still stands, apart from Atiku Abubakar, I still see Kwakwanso as the only strong, high head from the North, politically, who has that sagacity, who also has that followership in the North. But whether that will fly with Obi is what I don't understand. Then also have to look at the political party. NDC was just formed just a few months ago. How well are they rooted across Nigeria?
With the issue of identity politics, do you think it plays any role there?
Yes, of course. Let me tell you the strategy that's my personal opinion. The strategy that ADC is playing is around the name. There's APC, there's ADC. Okay? When you put it on the scale, when it comes to the ballot box, ADC is going to come before APC. They have some level of similarity. Some people that are not well enlightened enough, whether in the villages, in my village, in Obo or whatever, who wants to vote, probably want to vote and see an ADC. The first thing they might just do is just talk.
They're giving APC an expo there.
So that is my personal... You know that these guys are very, very strategic. You just don't think that they are doing what they are doing. Yeah. One of the reasons I personally had, I don't know how true it was, during the 2015 election, why you had the APC was because APC was held and above PDP in the ranking when it comes to the ballot. You may think that it doesn't make any sense. But to an every person, it makes, to a thinker, to a communicator, it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
You understand? So I think that is why they are playing around. But I think, my personal opinion is that, where I'm even going to is that I think the issue of these who are in charge of the opposition political parties should be sorted out, and that is where the court comes into place. I thought by now that the Supreme Court last week would have given a directive or a verdict on who the true leaders of the ADC and that of the PDP, instead of just postponing, we have just few days or few weeks before you start campaigning. And the parties have a period within which to be able to stabilize themselves and get their conventions, nominate their candidates for the election. If they don't be able to meet that threshold, then they will not be in the ballot in 2020. So I am using this opportunity to call on the judiciary to do the needful, so that in the next few weeks, let's know where we're heading to. That of APC is certain. There's nobody that's coming to oppose the president. Even if you want to pick a ticket for 50 million or whatever, it won't work. But for the political parties, for the opposition political parties, it is so obvious that their issue is not system. A verdict was given last week by the Court of Appeal on Labour Party, asserting Mrs. Nenadi, yes, Usman, but Mr. Bure has quickly rushed to the Supreme Court again. So you can see the intrigue playing. So that is where we're talking about the issue of the opposition. Opposition we cannot kill opposition.
All right.
The day we kill opposition parties in Nigeria, that is the end of our democracy. Okay. We must have people with dissenting voice, and that is what democracy is all about.
All right. Let's bring in some of our viewers here who are watching live at Africa Independent TV on YouTube. Rolakin Adegun says, but should it be about unseating the present government or getting a more befitting leader who can lead the country on economic and security success? Shedi Y says, this shows he didn't do much in Lagos. It shows that Fashola governor Lagos much more than, but he steals their glory. Michael Mavudu says, Wike is already the national leader and godfather of PDP. Makinde should go and rest. Even in Rivers State, he's the leader of PDP and APC at the same time. Another user, Okun Olaruwaji, says, before Makinde starts his Operation Wettier, let him tell us where he kept the 50 billion naira of Oyo State. And another user, about the last I would take, it says, the APC, are you asking yourself, oh, that skips me now. Are they asking themselves if what they are doing today in that light doesn't lead to that? But Martin OTC is saying, welcome to Lagos, to Abuja. Hope you brought his agege bread. And he's saying that Rena, collect my own. Yes, Martin OTC. Yeah, I think that takes us.
Yes, thank you. So, all right, let's look at another headline. I think we'll take two in one and just do a wrap up there because we're almost out of time. Gag order, Serap editors sue NBC over threat to sue broadcasters for expressing opinion. Standard Times ran with that. And then we also see Hajj concerns as Jet A1 hits 3,000 naira per litre. Chris.
Well, yes, the NBC has regulatory rule over and above broadcasting stations in Nigeria, television, radio, and you cannot deny them that right. So in broadcasting, we'll have what we call ethical standard that all practitioners must adhere to. But that does not also necessarily mean that the NBC on its own should try to gag freedom of speech, which is what most people seem to be talking about. Even Nigerian Guild of Editors are already gearing up to take up that in court. Freedom of speech is well enshrined in the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Also, the rights of the journalists are also well enshrined in the 1999 Constitution as amended. So, I will always call for caution on the part of some of our colleagues. Even when you watch on TV, see some discussion, you see that some of our colleagues at times go overboard. But that in itself does not necessarily mean that you have to start imposing and telling people what to say, as we move towards 2027, because that will be seen as, you know, trying to align with the government, which I totally agree. Freedom of speech is allowed. If there's any infringement, what you need to do is just take the person, just sue the person, or sue the station and the rest of them. But ruling out blanket statement, oh, you must not do this, you must not do that, for goodness sake, we've gone beyond that. And for the aviation, the report coming in is that all is being equal, or if something is not done, by Thursday, the local airlines are going to shut down, and they'll stop flying. And the issue is that, according to reports I read, the vice president of the Airline Operators of Nigeria, the managing director of AP, said that prior to the war, to the current crisis in Iran, the cost of aviation fuel was 900 naira per litre. Now it has risen to 3,500, the highest in the whole of Africa. So, and the government is calling on the government to call the demand. It's not like those supplying it, like Dangote and the rest of them, have so much increased the prices. So why is the marketer so confident in doing what they are doing? So that is why the government needs to come into that.
Which will affect ticket airfares.
That is it. So they are saying that what they are using now, whatever they are getting as airline from ticket, is to buy fuel. The over high cost, they cannot be able to, we are not talking of salaries and the rest of them. So although the government is giving them some kind of 30% waiver on some of their debts, but he said that is not good enough. So I hope between now and the next 48 hours, the government can be able to sit down with the oil marketers and how we can be able to solve this problem. Because even the roads, you can't move. And the last issue I want to discuss also briefly is the shooting of the youth copper in Abuja.
Yes.
That is a very, very
terrible. If we could finish with that,
yes.
Producer says we have some extra minutes, so let's
okay, we do?
Yeah.
Thank you, producer.
Let's take it one after the other.
Yeah.
Staying with the aviation fuel. The president has granted them 30% off, and as you mentioned, of all their debts they owe to aviation agencies, NAMA, NCAA, FAN, and all that, parking spaces. You mentioned the series of meetings going on, and I know that in the last 1 week we've covered a lot of stories and meetings between the Festus Keyamo as well as the AON operations. Airline operators of Nigeria, as well as with marketers, regulators, and the latest sent us a press release on Saturday that he also met with the taxman, Oyedele, who will be resuming office today. All of those conversations are going on, but there are people who say this waiver is becoming sort of a blackmail on the part of the AON on the government, and I'm not sure what exactly, and they are demanding 100. They did eventually when the 30% was
United States, where the airline United States practically collapsed. The government had to come up with some kind of incentive to be able to. You remember what happened after 911, where the economy within the U.S. also practically collapsed. So it is, yes, it's private, it is private enterprise, but you have to know that airline is tied to the economy. Absolutely. It's a fact. It's tied to the economy. It's not just, yes, private. Yes, it's private. Why is the government also subsidizing the electricity industry? It's part of it. What I feel that should be done, in as much as I don't believe that there should be 100% waiver or whatever they're asking for, which is practically not possible. The fact is that we're having a crisis. It's a crisis that is affecting across the globe. I just came back from Europe about 2 weeks ago. I need to tell you a story. My flight was cancelled twice. I was to fly Lufthansa back just a few hours before from Heathrow to Abuja. Just a few hours before that, the airline they cancelled my flight, and I was routed to Air France. I need to tell you that just 2 minutes, as I've gotten my boarding pass, 2 minutes for me to just enter the plane, they cancelled the flight again. That happened in London. So there's serious crisis going on. The airlines are finding it very, very difficult to be able to meet their needs. So I still believe that the government can be able to sit down with the marketers and also the airlines to be able to look at areas. For goodness sake, if our aviation industry collapse, it's going to affect it. The road is not passable. We don't have, even in other parts of the world, okay, if the line is not even flying, you can just board a train and you get to anywhere you want to go to. In Nigeria, from here, from Abuja to I cannot enter a car or bus from here to Lagos. Because just between Abuja and Lokoja, somebody will just get you kidnapped. When you get to Kaba, somebody will get you kidnapped. So the route is not safe. Then apart from that, those also coming in to do business in Nigeria. Absolutely. How would they be able to move? Absolutely. So it is an economic thing so I think the government should be able to look at this and look at the issues being raised by the airline operators. I think we can have a mid-term bridge between what they are asking for and what if not, then if the industry collapses, there's going to be a problem.
I totally listen to you, and I hear, because when you talk about road, border, kidnapping, security is very key. Because again, you're talking about African Free Trade Agreement, where Nigeria is supposed to be moving possibly to better trade via the borders. That is also not going to happen if we don't have security. But I think also what happens, because Rena covers aviation, is the decline in flyers, the use of planes. I think at the moment, Nigeria has only about 3% Nigerians flying, choosing to use air travel, declining at about 15% per year from 2023, 2024, and now we're in 2026. So it might even get worse to the point, not just the airfare itself, but the lack of, perhaps sustainability of the planes themselves and managing, because you have air travel maintenance and you also have the ticket and the economics of it.
You have to give it, that's why I say we have to give it to the airlines. We've seen, and regulatory bodies, I socially commend the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyami, has been doing a very, very good job. There are few ministers in this administration I always give kudos. One is the FCT Minister, one is the Minister of Interior, then the Aviation Minister. To a large extent, to some extent, maybe probably the Minister of Works. These are the shining examples, because even when we criticize, there are still some people within the government that are really working. Now, if you look at the aviation industry as it is currently, you will see that it is not growing in leap and bound as you want to. Because an average flight from Lagos to Abuja is about close to 150. That's economy. It's about 150 that one. I'm talking of just one. For now. Before then, even before now, it was over 100,000 naira. And you can ask yourself how many people can be able to afford that. A return trip is about 250. Then at the airport, don't forget at the airport, this one airport, we have to enter 30,000, 50,000 to take. That's another discussion for another day. So a lot of Nigerians are not flying. Nigerians are stuck on the road. And you see the problem that people envisage. And just a few days ago, there was a bus, one of the buses, I'm not going to name him, one of the buses that was, they killed the driver and kidnapped all the passengers in that. It's very dangerous going. So the best thing I will always continue to say is the fact that the government should always try to intervene. The government should always try to intervene. We have to build the confidence in people's ability to be able to fly. In fact, if I have my way, I will feel that we should have some kind of incentives, like it's happening in other countries. There's an airline in the US. Why I've forgotten the name. I've forgotten the name now. I've taken it once. That airline flies on $50. Cut, $50. It's one of the cheapest airlines in the US. If you don't have money, that is an airline you can fly, and it flies anywhere. But there's a caveat. You'll not be able to carry your luggages. If you are going to carry luggages, you have to pay. I believe by now we should start having some airlines in Nigeria that can say, okay, we can fly you to Lagos, 70,000, 80,000, because you are taking on volume. If you look at volume, some of the airlines don't even get full. There are some of them that fly empty. You just see them flying, you get into the airplane, and you just see that half the plane is empty. Instead of people putting at 150, if you put it at about 70, 80, and you have the plane full, you are making money. They have their own way of going about it. But what I'm trying to say, in essence, this is a critical period where the government have to be able to sit down with both the marketers and the airline operators, and we'll be able to find a solution to this problem.
Do you smell something like deceit and greed anywhere? Because one of the sound bites that we had to share from that late Thursday night conversation with the Vice President of AON, Allen Onyeman, he says that it's only in Nigeria that we have a 270% increase in the price of jet fuel.
Why, Chinachebe in his book, Still Apart, he said, let us first of all drive away the hawk that came for the chicken. Then we can now talk to mother hen. The same managing director of Airpeace that is talking about 270%, I've spoken about that already. He was not complaining when in December his flight ticket was going for close to 500,000 naira, just flying from Lagos to Owerri, where I come from. So what are we talking about?
No, what does the economy say about demand and supply?
That is what we are saying. The same thing we are saying. There are instances where they have gained. There are also instances where they have to give. That is what I'm saying in essence. It's the economy. But what I've consistently been saying here is that there is the need for the government as a regulatory agency, in as much as airline business in Nigeria is private business, there is the need for the government to be able to come at this point in time and try to save the aviation industry from collapsing. Because what we heard even now, that some of them are going as far as Accra, Cotonou, and the rest of them to buy aviation fuel and come back to Nigeria. We shouldn't be.
Okay.
Well, aviation fuel is not just, when you talk of aviation, you know there's an alternative to aviation fuel. Our kerosene, from what I learned, also they use it for flying. And kerosene presently is still very, very... We are talking of aviation now. You have not talked about gas. So many people cannot afford cars. The cost of gas, domestic gas now, is so high that Nigerians are now resorting to using charcoal. Some are going to the bush to start cutting down trees and the rest of them. It's a big challenge
Chris,
for us.
thank you so much. I think that this is the best part where we have to leave it. Unfortunately, we couldn't talk about that tragic death of the youth copper in Abuja. I'm sure it's something that we would follow you up on your wall with later on. But we'll take a quick break, and when we return, our first conversation begins in earnest. Stay with us.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy, and our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is important.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in authoritarianism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Focus Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
Ask him where is the law.
National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
So people put people in poverty deliberately, deliberate misplacement of priorities, and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of
the former president, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card. He has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal with.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT. The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Welcome back, and now we go straight into the conversation. Security alert to Nigeria in South Africa is where we begin this conversation. Indeed, Daily Trust is also around with that as the lead, talking about xenophobia and Nigerians, facing rising threats in South Africa. We have a guest joining us virtually, Abdurrahman Balogun, Head Media, Public Relations and Protocol, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. Nitcom, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's first of all get an update on the situation report, really. What is really going on in South Africa?
Well, thank you, and good morning, Nigerians. Well, what is going on in South Africa is not a new thing. The xenophobic attack on not only Nigerians and other African citizens have been on for some years now. and due to so many reasons. So this latest one has to do with the same pattern, the same reasons of not wanting to see other nationals in their domain, saying that dominating their economy, they are dominating their space, they are not getting the job. Nigerians are getting the job. They are not prosper in terms of their trade and business. Nigerians are having shops and trading because some of these things are limited to that. Because those who are in the formal sector, like in the health sector, educational sector, I've not heard of any time that they are attacking them. Our lecturers there, our health personnel there, and we have a good number of them there. But those who are selling and buying and
I think we must have lost his audio there. Please, if we can just check with that and get back to the interview. But really, Rena, when we're talking about this, just looking at those passing photo shots right there on our screen, it is tragic. And you would wonder to what extent is this going to get to if there is no intervention immediately?
You know, it's so unfortunate. Reading about it and also going back in time, as far back as 2008, 2011, and then 2019, and we're having in 2026 yet again. The reasons that they even give, maybe you understand the part of saying, oh, foreigners take peanut for the jobs that we should have been well paid for, doing under-the-table jobs, and then the jobs are no longer available for them to be well paid for, causing unemployment for them, as they claim. You know that they're also protesting that foreign men are taking their women and are taking their women, and so that's also a problem. You know, it's even the diplomacy in all of this that should be the conversation, as far as I'm concerned, in my own perspective. And Ghana, for example, we have Nigerians who are already protesting that the Nigerian government is being weak in handling this, and they are putting Ghana on the table, that is having diplomatic talks with them, summoning their ambassador right there to a conversation, and promising them what could be done. But I read a statement over the weekend telling Nigerians in South Africa that what they have to do is to comply with the advisory, stay off the markets, lock your shops, stay in the house. Is that even enough? Because it's not even people on the street that they come for. So how does this affect diplomatic relations, and what's the way out of this? I'm looking forward, and I hope that we're able to re-establish conversations with our guest this morning, who is in the best position to talk to us as far as this is concerned.
You know, for me, I think it's the danger of, you know, the lack of time, you know, that this positions. If you look at the population of Nigerians in South Africa, I think officially they say between 30,000 to about 60,000, but the undocumented number of Nigerians living in South Africa, it's over 500,000 by the Nigerian South African Union. If you look at the danger of the currency of the number of Nigerians there and the danger to the businesses, now the consideration by NIDCOM is for Nigerians to shut down their businesses in the guise of the aggression and the violence that they are facing. But for how long? That's the key question. For how long? And how safe are they even within the walls of their home? Because we are seeing people advancing these attacks, going to homes by Nigerians. And the question is, how safe are they and for how long? I think beyond the rhetorics of just giving advisory to Nigerians to not proceed to business, you know, or to have their businesses done within the daytime, I think it is much more than that. And perhaps we'll bring back our guest on the show. Abdurrahman, good morning. Can you hear us now?
I'm here, I can hear you, I can hear you.
Yes. So you were just giving us an update of what's happening. And you said it's a recurring decimal. It's been happening. And just like Rena said, you know, year in, year out, we are seeing these attacks. What are the true symptoms? What is causing this?
Yes, I heard your discussion that it's just a rhetoric. Well, I think it's better to be on the safer side than to be on the sorry side. If you look at the history, a lot of Nigerians have been casualties in the past due to all this xenophobic attack. We've lost quite a number of our citizens. I think giving such an advice to be safe, because our concern is to the welfare of Nigerian citizens. Then secondly, on the diplomatic level, there have been some diplomatic shuttle meetings and not the rest before now. But I can assure you that the present situation now is that it is now at the ministerial level, and we are awaiting the outcome of the meeting. Honorable Minister of State, Foreign Affairs, Ambassador, Her Excellency Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu is on top of this matter. She has been meeting with her counterpart, engaging them. I don't know whether you've read about that. Then secondly, during the time of President Muhammadu Buhari, the former Minister of State, then Ambassador Zubairu Dada, they had what we call they signed an MOU with South African authorities. It is called Early Warning Signal Mechanism. This MOU, if it has been implemented, perhaps will have minimized. In this MOU, I like all this early warning signal of this xenophobic attack. These are some of the diplomatic measures that have been taking place. So on our side, we are appealing that they should go back to that MOU and let South Africa from that side implement it, since the event is taking place in their domain.
All right. You mentioned some of the interventions going on diplomatically. One may have to talk about that much more later. We have NICASA, that's the Nigerian Citizens Association in South Africa, for example, through their president, Frank Onyekwelu. He's saying that this is now perceived as the increasing normalization of hostility. But the call that he is making is asking the Nigerian government to act urgently and firmly to address the development. Is it that the people you are trying to save are not aware of your safety effort? This statement was just yesterday, Sunday.
They are quite aware. I just told you now that the issue is now at the ministerial level, and we are awaiting the outcome of the meeting. Honorable Minister of State, Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu is on top of this matter. So maybe if you ask him, he will tell you the minister is on top of this matter, meeting, engaging with our counterpart and working out an amicable resolution. But the issue is not, it goes beyond it, it goes beyond it goes beyond all this meeting. It's the citizen, it's the South African citizen themselves that they need to, what do I call it? They need to evaluate and have the tolerance of other Africans. This thing we are talking about is not only to Nigerians, it's to some other African nations. And like I said earlier, you see that is the aggression is towards non-formal sector.
All right. I hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Okay, I hear you. Sorry to interject. I thought you were done with your thoughts.
Let's await the outcome of this latest diplomatic shuttle meeting and see how it goes. So that's why we are saying, pending that time, please be safe. Please be safe. That's why we issue out that advice. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So I don't know if you also saw Ghana's stand. I don't know. You mentioned Ghana earlier on in your conversation, where you know a viral video of a citizen of Ghana was also being harassed, and the High Commissioner of Accra, Tando Delambo, was summoned the High Commissioner representing Ghana to South Africa and asked what was going on, and immediately the Ghanaian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the victim in the viral video was a legal resident in South Africa. We're talking about Nigerians who are also legal in South Africa facing these attacks. And what Ghanaian government did was to actually announce that the government would automatically relocate their citizen, all expenses paid, demanded apologies from the South African government, which they have since done, and given those apologies. A former ambassador and representative to the United Nations Human Rights Council, Ambassador Matthew Ohomi, said, foreign affairs, diplomacy is about reciprocity, short of saying, if you slap me, I slap you back, He's saying that the moment you continue and consistently keep quiet, they see you as a sleeping dog and will continuously keep engaging from a place of superiority. And I'm saying this because, Rena mentioned here that this has, you also said it, statistics have shown this has continued to go on for Nigerians in South Africa day in, day out. So what decisive measure, what is the stance of Nigeria right now? Because beyond diplomacy and having this back-end conversation, what must Nigerian government do now to say enough is enough? We cannot tolerate any form of aggression to legal residents in South Africa.
All those things you have enumerated have been done. And you see, one thing you have to know is that there is no limitation to diplomacy. We will continue to engage, to discuss, and then get an amicable solution. I've just told you now that the problem is not with South African government. The problem, I say, is South African people. And it is South African government that can work on its own people. It's not South African government that are attacking our people, that are attacking Nigerians or Africa. Our former president have been to South Africa on this matter. Former Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, have been to South Africa. You mentioned Ghana too. I've also been to Ghana when this issue of sending Nigerian traders out of Ghana. And it's not about being legal or illegal occupants now. It's just about their culture, their way of thinking that Nigeria are taking over their businesses. Nigeria are taking over their way of living and all the social activities there. That is just it. That's why the deep hatred thing for Nigeria. So we continue, and they tender apology on many occasions. You can Google search that. South Africa has tendered apologies to Nigerian government and Nigerian citizens on many occasions. We've written to condemn some of the activities, even over serious activities of security agencies in some cases where they seem to look away when Nigerians are being attacked. So we will continue to engage. And I just told you, the issue presently is at the ministerial level. Ambassador Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu is on top of this matter. And let's just await the outcome of the meeting. That is one. Two, the early warning signal that has been there for years now, I think this is time to revisit that MOU and then work on it. If that thing has been signed, some of these things that we are having now will be a thing of the past. Our population in South Africa, you can't compare with other nationals. We have many of our citizens there, and every life matters to Nigeria. You recall, sometimes ago when this thing, I think 2019, 2020, I don't know, 20 something, we had to evacuate Nigerians from South Africa. Serious evacuation. And the airline also volunteered to help in this process. Thousands of them were evacuated, they were resettled, and given some necessary support here. So we don't want a repeat of that. As South Africa, they apologize over this. So going forward, let's see, let's await the outcome of this meeting. And that is why we advise at NICOM, we advise that they should keep away so that they don't attack them. You see that most of these attacks, they attack them on the streets, they attack them in their various shops because they know where they live, they know where they work, they know their social life, they live together. So please, keep away. We continue to say that their safety matters more than issuing a condolence messages.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. As we call it a day, we'd like to ask, because the South Africa and the Ghanaians as well, they are, I mean, the Ghanaians or even Nigerians who are saying that the government of Nigeria is being weak when it comes to intervention and the diplomatic resolutions as far as this is concerned. They are putting Ghana and Ghanaians forward. And from the intervention of the Ghanaian government, we see now that South Africa has agreed that those attacking Ghanaians in South Africa have been identified and a legal action will be taken against them. And so both governments have said that they will work together to address this diplomatic crisis. You mentioned the progress and the process of tackling this when it comes to our own country, Nigeria, and how Ambassador Odumegu is on top of the matter. As well, South Africa's High Commissioner, that's Ghana's High Commissioner, Benjamin Kofi Kwashi, is also on top of this for them. And we're seeing progress. We're seeing what they are doing. Outcomes are being made public to Ghanaians in South Africa. So in Nigeria, what progress would you say has been made so far that NICASA, Nigerians in South Africa, would say, oh, we can hold on to this while conversations continue diplomatically?
Yes, the progress is that for now, I mean, in the last 48 hours, we've not heard of any attack on any nation. Hello, can you hear me?
Very well, we can hear you.
Okay, yes. The progress is that in the last 48 hours that we have issued this advisory, we've not heard of any incident. That shows that both Nigerians and South Africans, they are listening to our advice, our plea that everybody should remain calm. And then we equally advise Nigerians to exercise caution. Not to do anything untoward. Today and yesterday, they want to do one ceremony like that. So we ask them, don't go out, don't partake in it, so that they will not use it as an excuse or an opportunity to attack you.
All right.
And in the last 48 hours, I'm not too sure there's any incident of any attack on Nigeria in particular.
Abdurrahman, we must go now. Sorry to just cut in there because we do have to, at the drop of 8, bring in Kakaaki Social. But we thank you for your insights, and we will be coming back to you sometime soon for updates, and I'm sure by then we've seen some respite. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we take a quick break, and when we'll come back, it will be time for Kakaaki Socials to stay with us.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
There is a serious threat to democracy, and our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go. Every part of this country is important.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Focus Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
I think that is the law. National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
Some people put people in poverty deliberately, deliberate misplacement of priorities, and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of the former president, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card. He has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT.
Good morning and welcome to Kakaaki Social. It's a brand new week and we are diving straight into stories making waves online. I am Chidera Isdoye. Welcome. Now, Nigeria is set to introduce a new green tax on high-emission vehicles. Starting July 1st, 2026, vehicles with engine capacities of 2,000 cubic centimeters and above will attract a 2 to 4% surcharge as part of the country's 2026 fiscal policy measures. This initiative is aimed at promoting cleaner energy and reducing carbon emissions by discouraging the use of fuel-heavy cars. But smaller vehicles, mass transit systems, and electric vehicles will, however, be exempted from this new levy. Let's see what netizens are saying concerning the new tax levy on vehicles. Now, going on to the space of X, our social media has been buzzing. CEO's concept is saying, enough of these strategic multi-taxing. So if I run a logistic company that pays tax, you mean I will have to pay a green tax on my truck? From where? How? And another user, Steve, is saying, if all these tax here and there paid, how sure are we that it will be used correctly and not to get new SUVs for senators so that they are busy sleeping or rep members that do not even know the needs of the people? And another user says, I can see the world's bank writing everywhere. They give you loan and force you to start with some annoying taxation. What has the government done to stop the emission? Have they provided good electric bus or constant power supply to promote buying electric vehicles? All these are just unnecessary taxations from the government. Even Pharaoh was a better human. And our final reaction in this story also says, Nigeria will be a good country when our politicians are also using roads to travel, not air within the country. So you will see that there will be no security personnel on the road, no bandits, because they will not like to be kidnapped and the road will be good. Now, continuing, the All Progressives Congress has strongly criticized Seyi Makinde over comments made at a political summit in Ibadan. In a press statement, the APC accused the governor of inciting violence by referencing the historic oppression Weti, describing his remark as reckless and a threat to national peace and security. Now, the party called on security agencies to take the matter seriously, warning that such rhetoric could fuel unrest and undermine Nigeria's democratic stability. The APC also dismissed claims of a one-party state, insisting that Nigeria's political space remains open and competitive ahead of the 2027 general elections. Let's see what netizens are saying concerning Seyi Makinde's remark over the weekend. Now, Jude is saying, you once threatened, let 2023 be the last time the Igbos interfere in Lagos politics. Let there be no repeat in 2027. Lagos is like Anambra. Imo, and any Nigerian state. It is not any man's land, not the Federal Capital Territory. It is the Yoruba land. Mind your business. That is Weti. And we have another user saying, if you want to win next election, forget about long statements on the internet. Majority of the voters do not even have access to internet. I voted last election for Tinubu, but the way things are going now, if nothing changes before the elections, don't blame no one. Do the needful. And another user, Mega UC, says, I almost believed this write-up, but I realized that the writer and the one who posted the contents are the real people who have the mindset to cause anarchy and community disorder, to do the negative narrative towards oppositions, and forgetting that APC members do the worst. And we have Grandmaster who says the executive governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, should, as a matter of urgency, address the public through a world press conference. Silence at a time like this risks allowing a single narrative driven by the ruling party to dominate unchecked. This is not just about politics. It is about controlling the narrative, protecting public trust, and setting the record straight. A clear, factual, and timely response will, 1, refute any misinformation, 2, reassure stakeholders, and 3, demonstrate leadership and transparency. A word they say is enough for the wise. Well, Seyi Makinde was trending over the weekend, but let us continue. A Nigerian traveler has alleged discrimination after claiming that he was denied a bus ride in Lagos over his ethnic identity. Now, this incident reportedly occurred in Lagos, where the man said fellow passengers refused to board a vehicle with him after identifying him as Fulani and labeling him a headsman. Now, according to his account, the situation has caused delays and public tension before the issue was eventually resolved. This allegation has since sparked conversations online about ethnic profiling, discrimination, and social divisions within our country. Let's see his video.
Since yesterday, I am on my way to Calabar. I go to GUO first. I sleep there, GUO Park. They say they are not going to Calabar. They tell me I have to come to GIGM. Here am I standing GIM. But after I pay the money in the early morning, when I go to Interbus, the passengers say they are not going to travel with Fulani. Just because of I am Fulani, they are not going to travel with me. Which make the GIGM to pay me back, refund me my money. They say they are sorry because passengers say they are not going to travel with Fulani. It's unfortunately. I'm sending this video to the world to know how we feel in our country. Today in Nigeria, just because of your Fulani, people will say they will not travel with you. Unfortunately, it is unfortunately. I'm sorry, my dear people. I'm sending this message to the world for people to know how Fulani feel in the world, how Fulani are feeling in our country, in Africa in general. This is what is happening to Fulani.
Well, let's see what comments are saying. Now, Victor says, I witnessed one in Akure, a Fulani guy and his heavily pregnant wife stopping a taxi. Once the taxi driver noticed that they are Fulani, they would just zoom off. They waited for like 30 minutes. No one was ready to stop for them. Now, another user saying, the best thing for the Fulani tribe is to tell their brothers to stop terrorism and kidnapping. Good name is better than riches. And in the same light, another user is saying, yet Nigerians will cry for unity with South Africans. You can't even country. Well, people know what they are avoiding. They don't want to pay ransom. But let's see our final reaction from Jerry, who says, this is the brutal aftershock of stereotyping. Imagine what the Igbos are suffering in Nigeria after they are all seen as IPOB. Okay, now Helen Peter is saying, what is he before? They will suffer from the sins of the people after all. They all have the same agenda of killing the indigenous people of Nigeria and taking over their land. Well, our final story is on a mother who has sparked wide reactions after publicly calling on men in her community to discipline her son over an alleged theft. Now, the woman claimed that her son stole a neighbor's laptop valued at 400,000 naira and sold it for just 70,000 naira. And according to her, he used the money to lodge in a hotel with a woman. Now, this incident, which has circulated widely on social media, has raised concerns about youth behavior, about parenting, and the handling of discipline within communities. Let's see this video.
Come on, your hand. Come on, your hand. Lie down well. 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 I'll lie down well. Lie down well. Lie down well. Mommy, please. Come on, your hand. Mommy, please. Come on, your hand. Mommy, please. I will kiss your body. Lie down. Lie down. Lie down.
Let's see what netizens are saying. Now, Albert is saying, lady, the other reaction before this one, the previous reaction, yes. He says, lady, you should never let anybody abuse your son by beating him like that. He's going to be a man one day, and you'll remember that he may be the one to look after you. You do not let anybody else treat your child or your children. You people should go and beat your own children. You're disgraceful doing things like that. God forbid. And Archangel Michael is saying flogging him is not enough. He should be sent to manual work to make money to raise the cost of that laptop. That will make him know the value of money. Now, Olariwaju says, God bless the mother. The reason for moral decadence now, you know, consign me, no be my pikin. Okay, you know, consign me, no be my pikin. While growing up, when we still get better elders around, to do some kind thing, go they fear you. Not because of your parents or because they are around, but because eyes are watching you. This is a very correct. I witnessed this one. Now, what Chechiko is saying, this one no be anything. Pour on water, enter bush, bring one leaf where they scratch, put am for him body, tie in hand. He will see woman next time, in go run. Well, it is what it is. Well, I'm still team gentle parenting, and that's a period. Well, that's it on Kakaaki Social this Monday morning. Thank you for staying with us and for keeping the conversations going. Remember, your voice matters. So keep engaging, keep sharing, and keep shaping the stories that matter. I am Chidera Isidoi. See you same time tomorrow.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day gets your own wahala. Sometimes people go on stand me. But Baba say, no be by gra. You must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, my Baba remember OPay USSD. That's star 955*131#. Baba press and lock accounts. From market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us.
Cube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy, and our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go. Every part of this country is important.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics.
Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. Focus Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
Some people put people in poverty deliberately, deliberate misplacement of priorities, and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of for the former president, yes, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card. Has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
The low-performing agencies be held to account, or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Well, thank you for staying with us. It's now, of course, the second conversation point for us here, talking about South Africa earlier and the xenophobic attack and what Nigeria is really doing to stand in for Nigeria. Now we're talking about the effects of war in Iran limbo. A guest is joining us, Professor Ken Ife, Global Development Economist. Good morning.
Oh, hi, good morning.
All right, so first of all, I mean, the war in Iran is 2 months old and, you know, it has moved from what we call a climax of violence where there is a fragile ceasefire place, but nothing else. It seems like it's all been rhetorics, and the more you look, the less you see. How do you evaluate this?
Well, it's all moving in stages. It started with rhetorics about exactly what Donald Trump thinks he wants. He wants to disarm Iran. He wants all their nuclear thing out of the picture. He wants to collect the enriched uranium-235. He wants them to stop making missiles. He wants all that. Then when the battle started, when we moved into physical violence, he started changing those goalposts. Then Iran was on, I'm defending myself, but from defending himself, they're now taking control of the Strait of Hormuz, and the whole equation changes. NATO played back. They didn't want to get involved in the war. They were not consulted. And so they stayed out as the spectators. But now those spectators have all moved into active discomfiture. They're now saying, look, something there is hurting us. So everybody, the Gulf nations, it was I think the Saudi Arabian the prince was accused of actually instigating this. But they're all now on the firing line. So the situation is that there's a peace, temporary truce, or what you call a ceasefire, And then that was to expire, but that was postponed indefinitely, no date in mind. But there may be a surprise attack, but we don't know. But I think if anything is going to happen, it has to wait for the King of England to finish his trip and come back before another whirlwind will set off. But meanwhile, those of us in Africa are at the receiving end. And as always, because we have import-dependent economy.
All right. We see that the planned talk with Iran has fallen flat yet again. That's U.S. planned talk, because the Iranian diplomat also has arrived back in Pakistan from the conversations that were to be in Islamabad. It seems that really there is no way forward. And if you say that, okay, let's see how all of this happened, do you think that Donald Trump is even in a box in all of this?
No, he has his game plan. See, the funny thing is that I've never seen a leader that takes complete control of a war and speaks every minute and tweets every minute on day by day on the issues. So it's a different kind of leadership that we have. When we know he's changed his department to Department of War, so everything there is completely under his control. But he's not consistent, because what he says today is different from what he says tomorrow. So we don't know. But the thing is that Iranians are very cagey, because once beaten, twice shy. They don't want to jump up and down with him, because he may lead them into an alley, and before they turn around, he has bombarded them. So that's why they are taking it on their own stride. Is it going to improve? I'm sure it will, actually, because if you notice, the appetite, American appetite to fight is taking a beating, because remember how they primed the invading force, and they were all going to come like from Cyprus, from that, but now he's underplaying that, and then he's now moving forces to blockade. That may actually be a temporary way of distracting Iran, so that they will think that they are going to come with the submarine, with the Marines, when they will start flying people into the mountains. So we don't really know, but they are very, very cautious and don't want to jump around with him. So it's not that there won't be a settlement, because if you notice on the terms, there's beginning to be some convergence. If you look at what the Iranians want, Iranians want about 5-6 items that they stated there, and I don't think it will be too far from bridging it with what Trump is currently. Trump has moved a lot. He actually moved a lot. So I think that they may be, but one sticking point is that Iran doesn't want ceasefire. They want permanent discontinuity of this. They don't want a ceasefire, because ceasefire means they will come back again after 6 months or 3 months. So they are holding to their gun. And of course, there are no moving grounds on the Strait of Hormuz, because that is the real crunch. That is what is getting everybody concerned.
All right, talking about concern, Trump knowing what he's doing, let's look at the causal effect of this war, not just on, in the Europe or in the United States, even in Africa, so to speak. I mean, earlier on we were talking about the hike of, aviation fuel, jet one fuel, from about 900 now to about 3,500 naira. The aviation sector is absolutely in chaos, because, there is no perhaps direction of where this will get to if this continues. But beyond that, Israel, who brought the U.S. into the latest conflict, is still busy fighting Lebanon. Is there an end to this war? What are we going to be looking at in terms of optics in the next couple of months?
No, the Israel case is different, to be honest, because the Netanyahu knows that if this war ends, he will be going straight to jail. And he doesn't want it to end. So, whatever happens, he must be fighting somewhere. And he must continue to draw Israelis into the crisis of survivability. In other words, they're making them feel that this is an existential threat. So as long as he's fighting, the emergency war powers will kick in. So he's buying his time. And if we allow him, he will go for another election and then continue. So that is one. And don't forget that over the last 5 American presidents, he has gone and presented this war plan to all of them one by one, and all of them refused to fight. It's only that he met a willing ally in Trump. And of course, Trump has his own challenges as well. He has his suspended sentences and all of that. So he's a man with fury in his blood. So it was very easy for him to convince him. And then he also, both of them are transactional. Of course, of Trump is far more transactional. He's not what they are looking at that he's looking at. He's looking at the financial implications of all of this. So there's always all that playing up with him. I remember when he talked about Gaza, he said, "Oh, it's going to be a big development. Everybody should bring $1 billion to participate in it." So he has a different trajectory. But the thing is that he's also being pushed. And then they've noticed that the Americans are beginning to dislike the involvement of Americans and American troops and lives in making them die for Israel. So that sentiment is beginning to rise. And I think he is becoming very conscious of the fact that even his own base are criticizing him for taking this too far. So he's worried about that. Of course, he's also worried about the American election coming on in November, because it's very, very likely if this continues that they will lose the House of Rep, the Congress. And Congress is the one that wields the war power. And that's the one that can actually stop the president. So it is not something that they want to risk, but it is something that could happen sooner than later.
All right. As we continue to look at the impact of this, maybe we should look at the economic toll it's having on people around the world. And yes, we understand that the closure of the Strait of Hormuz is retaliatory for the U.S. blocking the Iranian ships. But the EU Energy Commissioner, for example, has assessed the economic impact this has and the status quo that is also costing the bloc. He says it's costing the bloc $500 million a day. And if he continued, he's warning that this is very difficult and very difficult months we're experiencing, and possibly even years lie ahead of us. I mean, what's the way out of this, especially for Nigerians?
Well, the EU bloc estimating $500 million is an understatement. It's a lot more. Do you know that nobody calculates? Do you know how many ships that are there? The ships, they're in hundreds. And then can you imagine the cost of what they call demurrage on each ship that is sitting there, those sitting docks? Some of them are carrying fuel, some of them are empty, wanting to enter, those wanting to come out. There is cost on this ship, because people who own this ship may have been owing money and having to repay money that they borrowed to buy this ship, and now they are calculating the cost, and liquidations are going to happen, and so that's one. Then you have the insurance, and then you have the energy, the impact, the repercussion on energy costs. It's all gone up by 60% or more. Even the Brent crude is 105 yesterday, and they could be 107 by the end of today. And then not to talk of the impact of that increase in crude on the refined products. China has banned export of refined products, so is Kazakhstan, and even Russia that is sending in cheap crude. So all of those, so what they are calculating is a tip of the iceberg. So they are not calculating, they are calculating the cost of how about the refineries in Europe that are shutting down, and that they can't continue, or they are even there. So there are many costs. Some of the inflationary costs. Inflation is a cost. High cost of prices are costs. So I don't think that the 500 million says much about what they're experiencing. It's a lot more than that.
So this makes it even more difficult.
Sorry?
This makes it even more difficult. Difficult months, difficult years ahead of us.
Without a doubt, even if this war stops today abruptly, we're still going to take the whole of this year to begin to see normalization. Because those costs that we have incurred will not go away. You have to bear those costs. So a lot of money would have to be borrowed to be able to defray, and in the emergency. Okay, look at the other day. Our president went to intervene with the airline and then had to cough out 50% of their costs. That is money. And that is even in the midst of things happening, not alone going down 2 months, 3 months further down the line. It's going to be huge. You cannot quantify those costs right now. Because you don't quantify the cost of insolvencies, the cost of people shutting down completely under the weight of, and the need they're going to borrow from IMF and World Bank. You're going to be talking about hundreds of billions of dollars that will be borrowed to be able to cushion and absorb the effect. So it's going to be a lot of cost. But is there anything we can do? Of course, there are things we can do.
And maybe we'll continue, Professor Ife, maybe we'll continue with solutions when we return from the short break. We need to observe a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue from where you stop, which is preferring solutions moving forward. Stay with us, everyone.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights. From Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries, town halls that lean on data and research, we raise the bar. Gender Agenda, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on AIT and on AIT's YouTube channel live. My name is Adora Sidney Jack, and this is Gender Agenda. Gender Agenda. Women rising.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
But thank you for staying with us. It's back to the conversation, and we were just talking about, of course, the issues that have still the effects of war in Iran and limbo. We've been talking to Professor Ken Ife, Global Development Economics. Dr. Ken, now let's come to you about the economics, which is where Rena left it off from. And she was talking about solutions. And I'm going to be looking at the threat to purchasing power. The high inflation rates, of course, are eroding household incomes, increasing the fact that poverty levels are spiking. There's a lot more hunger in the land. It's creating a windfall without a relief scenario for Nigerian families. What do you think would happen next? Because again, where there is absence of relief, criminality increases and insecurity thrives. How do we see what Nigeria can do in the short term and perhaps mid-term with all of this?
I think the question should be, what should Nigeria not do? Not what it should do.
Okay.
For example, to bring in fuel subsidy is a no-no. You can't even contemplate that. Why would you even think of fuel subsidy when we have complete local capacity to produce all the fuel that we need, and you are doing it on Naira to crude policy? And that is the surest banker you have with 1 month reserve capacity at Dangote refinery. He can hold 1 month stock. So you're not going to be subjected to, oh, the price has gone up because the supply, the transport costs, insurance costs, all of that. Now, number 2, you don't rush into a subsidy. Look at the airline. They just went to now write off airline. That is subsidy. You shouldn't be doing this. You don't subsidize consumption. You subsidize production. Now, why would you do, which one is easier to do? For the president to say to NNPC, clamp down on NPC, I want 100,000 barrels extra. Find it, invoke force majeure, give it to Dangote to prepare jet fuel. Dangote is selling jet fuel abroad. He's producing a lot of jet fuel, supplying them abroad. But ask the market, ask the airlines what is going on. They'll say, oh, marketers. Did they call Dangote? Marketers that have hacked the price by 300%. And the response is to go and subsidize them. Subsidize it for how long? The price will keep going up. The conflict hasn't ended. Why don't you just clamp down, decapitate NNPC and say, send this crude here? You are sending crude to China that has banned export of refined crude. Why are you sending crude to China? I mean, these are simple. We have export, today, we can produce more fuel than we need in this country. Then it has proved it. They are doing more than 65 million liters. And then we are consuming more, far less. And yet NNPC is still using your dollar to import substandard products. So the solutions are closer to you than where they are going. You are just heading. I know there is what has emboldened the president to do this is because we have windfall revenue from oil. That doesn't mean that you should apply it non-judiciously. That money a lot of it should go to beefing up our reserves. It should go to National Sovereign Investment Fund because that returns much, much higher. You can even give us up to 10% revenue, and then they will fund projects that matter to states and federal governments, projects that are going to have impact. And then, of course, you can put something on budget. You can put something on defraying some of the very, very expensive loans you have taken. But it is not for sharing in any form or shape. Apply the local solution that is sitting there under the PIA law. Get compliance on the law. The law says you must satisfy local demand for production than to start exporting. You can export when you have made local demand. We are nowhere making. These guys need 19 ship loads. You are giving them 7. And then you are telling me you cannot invoke force majeure. You are aiming to 1.8 million liter per barrel per day. You only need 650,000. You tell me you cannot meet that. And then not let punish Nigerians for nothing. Electricity price is going up because gas prices have gone up. And then you also have, when gas prices have gone up, the cost of gas generators will go up. Generating power costs will go up. So you are going to meet that on your bill for your band A. But even the bands, they are not even meeting the hours that they promised us on the band A and band B tariff. And then the story is a very long list of litany of asymmetry. Or is it the energy is making money positive, but industry, manufacturers are negative, simply because 80% of our manufacturing capacity depend on imported raw materials. Prices have gone up. So we are inheriting input costs, higher input costs. Agric is suffering because of phosphates, fertilizers, and all the cumulative impact. Then you also have real estate also on the line. So they are also affected because they are consuming a lot of materials that are imported, steel products and all of that. So we have to be very scientific, absolutely, and realistic in addressing the issue. We have solutions that are closer to you than what we are invoking.
Okay, when you say that we have solutions and we have way forward, we have to be realistic, scientific about all of this. And we see papers, we see progress. We hear the government said, oh, we've saved XYZ from subsidy and all of that, yet we go ahead to borrow. Some of the progress, for example, say in 2025, we had that the GDP growth exceeding 4% as at fourth quarter of last year, foreign reserves reaching approximately $50 billion, and inflation beginning to moderate from the highs of 2024. But the impact of this war, I mean, is even obvious to the blind in Nigeria. It's so glaring. The cost of everything has virtually gone up astronomically in hundreds of percentage, not even in single digit. What do you then say as a solution, a way out of this, the government has to do to relieve us of this burden?
Look, the only reason Nigeria is poor and Nigeria is not developing, there are two reasons. One is we have an import-dependent economy. You know, the economy can be dependent on all kinds of goods, but unfortunately, the ones that are hurting you as a country is import-dependent on the same thing that God has given you, natural endowment. God has given you agriculture, employing 60% of your population. Rather than add value to those to feed your people and create more jobs, you chose to be importing them and then also exporting raw material. When you export raw material, you're exporting your jobs and you're importing poverty. The second one is solid minerals. God has given you those 44 solid minerals. South Africa is thriving on 4 or 5. We have all of those. You don't even know who is producing it. You know somewhere in Zamfara that are making $3 billion, not a naira comes in as tax. But you've got all that, but you are not investing in refining these products. They are taking them out raw. And then you come to oil and gas. You've seen that you had 4 refineries that are dead, taking $1 billion every day. And in the last 3 years, they took $3.5 billion. Why are you pouring that money there? And then you prefer to import. Traders are running your country. You are importing it so that every day they give you a long story. Now see how it's playing out. In the PMS price only rose by about 40 to 50%, commensurate to the rise in the crude. Now look at the other one. The price in the crude rose to only about 50%, but the jet fuel has gone 300%. So why? Because of what traders are doing. So if you want to run a trader economy, then don't complain. You can sit quietly and watch it happen. Don't complain. Now you have capacity. Apart from Dangote, you have $50 billion being invested in Ondo refinery. You have Bua doing 200,000. You have more people coming in Lagos, Umobula refinery. These people are coming together to build refining sovereignty in Africa. Not for Nigeria alone, but for Africa. Our crude will never be able to meet. They will need over 3 million barrels a day. But at least, what is your business in exporting raw material? Why is exporting raw crude? We have a law that has been passed by both houses of parliament, that is both the Senate and House of Rep, insisting that there should be minimum of 30% value addition on any raw material in Nigeria. The president is sitting on this for more than 9 months now to give us sense. He's sitting on it. Why is he sitting on it? This is the key to salvation of our economy. Let me tell you why this is a no-brainer. If you are importing raw material, you can only earn about 10% of the value of that value chain, no more than 15%. But you now have to go and borrow 100% to pay for the finished product. Where is it done? You produce shea butter, 40% of world shea butter. But look at the shea butter value chain, you're not even up to 4%. Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire produce 74% of world cocoa. Look at the entire value chain of cocoa. You are not even up to 7%, 3 of you, these 3 countries. It tells you that story. If you pass the law, then that 6 billion you are earning from export of raw material will increase to 20 billion immediately because 30% value has been added. Why are we killing ourselves with these arguments when we know it is obvious?
All right. I hear you loud and clear. Again, looking inwards. I think that's what I get from everything that you said, looking inwards and diversifying our IGR, within not just at the national level, but at the state level. But let's also look at what this means for Africa. I mean, we have the African Free Trade Agreement. How is Africa also looking inwards in terms of their partnership with this obvious dilemma that has faced not just Nigeria, but other African countries like Ghana as well? What do we do as, a community of states to collaborate more deliberately at this point?
One question they are going to ask is, what is Nigeria going to do with Africa Continental Free Trade? And the answer is nothing, because you cannot keep sending raw material you are sending to Europe and China. You're not going to send them to Africa. We are fighting about imposing 30% value addition, but Africa Continental Free Trade needs 40%. So even if you do your 30%, it's still not going to be enough. Ghana has gone to 50%. To put that aside. Then secondly, you have crude, and then you produce refined product. Africa is expecting Nigeria to supply them the refined products. How can you supply it to them when they are more concerned about sending the crude out? You will not give the crude to people, to the group that are currently refining, to refine and send to African countries. And so go and see the long queue. See how they are dropping in the streets. So why would you encourage that? So what makes you a leader of Africa if you cannot lead in implementing this measure that is purely domestic for you? And then you are looking to collect more dollars. Which dollar? The fact of the matter is this. The law says whatever is the dollar value, whether it's $105 per barrel, then we will pay that money, but pay it in Naira. But if you give him the minimum that he requires, then obviously you can say, okay, maybe the extra that you need, which is 7 shipload, you can pay for that in dollar. He will pay it in dollar, because at the moment he's paying extra $8 to $18 per barrel as premium to the oil marketers. And then NNPC collects $3 per barrel from him as premium to give him what the law says you should give to him. So tell me, are we not cutting our nose to spite our face? It's just indefensible. We have things that we can do to help other African countries and do it as business, not as charity. And then you are watching them suffer, and you are trying to please. To please who? Who are you trying to please? Because there are those marketers that they are prioritized. They're in this deal. They give them the crude, they go and sell it. They will not sell it to our own. And even when they try to and then this guy will now go and import crude from other countries, even from America, paying these huge transportation costs and insurance costs. And you expect him to subsidize the country with it. So, we have to call a spade a spade.
Okay, Professor, when we say calling a spade, we see now that the bomb may not be dropping, maybe just yet, or even the cruise missile flying in and out of Iran. But clearly, the bombs are wreaking havoc on the global economy. I'm just wondering, this global economy, the impact on it, is this really how the world would fold its hands and look at it?
Well, but let me tell you why it's so worse for Nigeria. Because if you don't tackle the issue of import dependency, look at what happened in Ukraine and Russian crisis. We have no business with that crisis because we have oil and gas. Russia has oil and gas. But because we are an import-dependent economy, and Russia supplies 40% of gas required by Europe, now Russia started turning down the tap. Their prices went through the roof. And we were importing those imported inflation. We were importing those high prices. That is the damage of having an import-dependent economy. So this is why I'm telling you that I took you to the roots of the problem. So when you address that, you remove the exogenous factors that can affect us and influence our econometrics. So that's why I'm saying sort that out or focus on it so that you will insulate our economy from all the things that happen. And look at all the times that we went into recession. Many of them have nothing to do with our oil. The one in 2008 was American subprime property crisis. There's so many different things. The COVID-19, was it oil? But it affected us because there was a complete logistics breakdown. And we're an importer nation. So we got affected. We had to go and borrow, Russian borrowing and borrowing. But if we are not an importer nation, if we are an exporter nation, we would have made more money. So that is taking it to the root. But globally, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Because Donald Trump does not want to remove those blockades. Iran says they cannot have a talk without removing that blockade because they believe that that is a violation of the peace agreement, of the ceasefire agreement. And so you have the two. So they're no longer talking about firing bombs, throwing bombs. The bombs are waiting. The main bomb now is the standoff between Iran holding the Strait of Hormuz and America refusing to lift the blockade. But what I'm waiting to see is what will happen if American troops interdict Chinese oil vessels. That's what we are waiting to see how it will play out.
All right, thank you so much. I think this is a great place to take that landing, to see where it plays out and plays on from. Thank you so much, Professor Kenny Faye, Global Development Economics, talking to us about the effects of war in Iran, limbo, and gave us some saleable solutions going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a lovely day. All right, talking about the war in Iran and, whatever conversations are in the crisis happening in Lebanon, Israel, a lot of Africans sometimes feel removed from this, conversations there now because it's not happening directly at the doorpost of Africa. But the effects, are far-reaching. We can actually talk about the inflation. Global. Absolutely. We can talk about purchasing power. We can talk about, energy crisis. We can talk about energy security, all of that. The implication of the standardization of issues is what I see. I'm thinking from what Professor Ike said. He talked about how to look at transformational infrastructure, industrialization, looking inwards as Africa, but first starting with Nigeria. What are we positioned to offer and how do we offer them and to whom? And what are we even offering? Talking about, natural mineral resources. But I think one of the biggest, and I keep saying that, it may also sound like deja vu, it's political will. I mean, if we are looking at crisis, inflation, purchasing power, energy crisis, whether it be it in the power sector, in the fuel sector, and insecurity, and we're looking at it vis-a-vis with the borrowing pattern of the government, people would be thinking, yes, we're taking more money, and that more money should come back into the system to actually reactivate transformational industrialization, which is what Professor Ike said. But are we seeing that with all the monies going out? And he also talked about the debt burden that Nigeria is accruing and what that means for Nigerians in the next decade. Alarming. I mean, putting the figure at of loss, global loss, at $500 million a day. And then we had Professor Ife say... That's scratching it. Yeah, that's scratching it. That's a surface figure if we had to go much more. I mean, I'm just looking at how much... I mean, selfishly, I'm most concerned about Nigerians, the impact that it has on us. It's not a good place to be. And looking at even if this ends today, the impact, the ripple effect will be there. The war might be happening. The U.S. president might be wanting or claiming, or even people even agreeing with him that he's the biggest president in the world. But the impact goes beyond his territory right there, and it trickles down to all of us in the world. The Strait of Hormuz, which was a retaliatory action on the part of Iran to say, if you shut our ships, we are going to shut the world by closing this as well. Having up to 20% of the global oil pass through that. Besides that, the inflationary figures are there. And then in Nigeria, we had one of our reviews last week who said that right now, every Nigerian at least owes up to 700,000 naira. If we are to work with the 220 million Nigerians that the last census puts a figure to. You are owing, you're spending, you don't even know how much is going out of you and all of that. It just looks like meter, for example, the power meter, where you sort of recharge because there is a debt inherited there. A percentage of it has to go halfway while you enjoy the rest. I think that is what life is becoming right now. And I really indeed look forward. Yeah, I look forward to the end of this and overall the end of the impact. I'm looking forward to solutions at diplomatic levels and seeing how all of those will be. Solutions. And I think that also falls at the political will table doorstep of the Nigerian government beyond rhetorics. Nigerians need to see more, and you need to show more. But that's where we'll take a cue to say thank you for joining us. We hate to leave you, but we have loved you, and we have to leave you. My name is Adora Kenija.
I'm sure you were being your spokesperson when you say we hate to leave you. We're happy to leave you. We'll see you again tomorrow. Another 3 hours on the show. Be good. I am Onoshorena Obozege.
AIT, sharing the African experience.